Me. Okay.
Cue the music.
Hello, welcome to the Pineapple Podcast.
Hello.
I'm Tyler. This is Matt.
I'm Matt.
I'm Josh.
In the back, we have Dave.
Hello.
And today we have a special guest here for you guys today. Sydney from Smart Game Piano.
Hello.
Thanks for
what
joining
else do
us.
I say? Oh, okay. Hi. Thanks for having me.
And that's
Hiya.
it. We got it. We're done.
We're good.
Okay, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Bye, kids.
Yeah, no, this is awesome to have you here. I've been following your channel for 4 or 5 years, it feels like, since I started my piano journey, and I found you on there. And
oh my gosh. I think that's like since the beginning. Thank you.
yeah, no worries. It's funny because I actually thought you'd been going for a really long time. I didn't even know that was the beginning.
Yeah, it started August 2015, so it'll be 6 years old this year.
Wow.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
It's cool to see how much it's grown too.
It's changed a whole lot, and it's actually going through some changes now. Just redoing the website because the previous website that it was just not very user friendly, and I am not a computer whiz. So like me and my team were just like, what if we do this? What if we do this? And the coders and the developers are like, that's not how that works. And so I'm trying to be like patient and understanding with that. It's been a learning process. It's been fun.
Very cool.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's cool how there's so many people who kind of fell into love with piano through video game music, you know?
Oh my gosh.
Which one was first for you, playing piano or playing the games?
Playing piano first. Like it's like that, like tale old as time. Parents got like a piano when I was 6 years old, and my sister would have been 5 at the time. And so they signed us up for lessons, and I've always jived with it. I've always clicked with it. I was always like a kid that was just kind of singing and dancing, just had a song in my heart. And then it wasn't really until like Final Fantasy X came along and kind of
Did
set
you
me
say
in
7
motion.
or 10?
10.
Oh,
yeah, I
sorry.
know. We're talking
That's
about
right.
7 tonight. Yeah, no, Final Fantasy X, like, because the opening to Xanarkin
You put
is
in
a
the
piano solo.
you put in that
Yeah.
CD, and I remember that moment of it's just like
Mhm.
this. What am I going to get into? This is a gorgeous
Yeah.
experience, because before the sounds were just those like 8-bit sounds, and I was super impressed that these extremely talented musicians would pack so much melody into such a
Mhm.
limited format. And then now that we're getting just that little bit more like HQ back in the day, mind blowing.
Yeah, it
Brilliant.
really is. Like, and my little like 14-year-old pea brain was just like, you can do that. Like, you can have piano and video game music.
Actual piano.
Yeah, like because I didn't think any of like they were two separate spheres in my life, and that was like the first time they were joined, and I was like hooked from that point on.
That was
So
it.
cool.
It's a
Yeah.
great, the Return to Xanarkin is a great
It's a great tune.
melody.
It's gorgeous. Nobu is a genius. He's
He
just
is.
a genius.
Yeah, he really is. He's one
Influential
of my favorites.
years of our friendship, our lives, and just like what I
Yeah.
consume now with, like, you see how big fantasy and these big stories are. Like, they were telling really fascinating stories to my 10 to 15-year-old mind that were like, this is not what they're doing over here. This is really cool. Like, I love this
Yeah,
marriage of crazy, almost classically inspired music. Like,
totally. Yeah,
I was gonna say
totally.
how timeless the piano to me is. Like, it was in all these genres, all these mediums, and it's still kicking, and it's still like in pop music that's on the
Mhm.
radio right now. It has
I
big
remember
player
that it like
ballads and-
actually brought together. Like I remember we'd skateboard, and then after finishing skateboarding, all the buddies would get together at somebody's house, and we would sit and watch one dude play. But like
Mhm.
a whole huge group of us would just sit and hang out. And now it's like, I mean, it's completely changed where you can just be at home and have this immersive experience. But that's one thing that I remember loving about it, because as a musician too, I was the guy that was completely happy just sitting back and watching and observing and just watching my friends enjoy and just listening. And I love that aspect of it. So I was going to ask you actually about her channels. What drew you to her channel?
Was basically the clear, like the way she laid out the actual lessons, like how it started off like with the piano roll. You could see it nice and clear. You're friendly in the videos. It was easy to kind of learn from you. And the songs that she would choose were like right up my alley
Oh,
each
that's
time.
cool.
I'm like, oh, that's one I wanted to learn. Oh yeah, I wanted to learn that one.
Yeah, I mean, those are ones I wanted to teach. Like, because every now and then I'll be given a song that I'm like, I don't know emotional connection to this. I want to do Final Fantasy music and that's it.
Yeah.
But you learn a lot through that way. And yeah, I'm glad I come across as friendly in my videos. I try really hard to be friendly.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and yeah, Final Fantasy is one of those things that is so good because it translates to piano better than a lot of like other video game tunes.
Yeah, you can tell he like wrote it sitting at a piano. In my opinion, a lot of it was like, yeah, he was just sitting there and he just rocked it all out.
That makes sense. He's a self-taught keyboardist, so I wouldn't be surprised if he wrote at the piano, yeah, or if he wrote at the keyboard.
That's
Do
amazing.
you feel that self-taught when you're playing it?
His music.
Does that make sense? My question. It made sense in my head. So sorry.
No, like if I'm understanding it correctly, like does the music sound like it came from a person who wasn't classically trained?
Yes.
Yeah. I think so too. And it's more obvious in some songs and less obvious in other songs. Like gosh, I'm gonna sound like a jerk, but like some of the self-taught songs are kind of like melodies of life, Eyes on Me, you know, like that 80s power ballad sound. I'm like, he was clearly just like jamming out to himself when it came to those songs. But other songs less so. Like one I have in mind is Esper World from Final Fantasy VI. That's in an odd meter. One Winged Angel.
My favorite. I love that game.
That's a good one.
It's my favorite too.
It's better than 7. I don't care what anybody says.
I'm with you, Dave.
The story is amazing.
Whatever.
The music is spectacular.
It
Yeah,
is
yeah.
amazing.
Best villain, really.
Best villain, period.
Consider that that's a 16-bit game.
Yeah, that was to me. That was my first big
wow.
with the music and the whole experience of it. It's like if they tried to do that now, I want to see it live action with like a 7 series. No, wait, maybe 12. Like so many seasons of it. It never ends. Just soak it all up.
A movie and like Kafka's theme.
There's
like,
so much passion right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, right?
because that's the one. Like you get that fire, and now that like I love your site so much because it's like I'm more of a hear it in my head and then sit down in front of the piano and just brute force it through. I'm like the notes are there, I'll find them. And then when you just can watch someone get there once, I love getting into the composer's mind of like, what were they thinking? And then you were like, you're like, oh, I get it. But at first I'm like, you're a madman. Why? Like I would never choose to do that. And that's why I love learning some of this music rather than learning like pop music or music for bands or other things. It's like, why are they doing that?
Well, just to go back to Final Fantasy 7, like you guys were talking about,
Since you guys brought it up.
Since you're talking about Final Fantasy, Eris's theme, when she, spoiler alert, you know,
has a bad day.
When she has a bad day there.
Oh gosh.
And
this is too soon.
when her song
Way
plays,
too soon.
when her song plays, I remember that I was like just in high school and I remember it made me cry and I was like, what is happening to me? This is a video game.
What is this coming from my face?
It burns.
Yeah.
And then now, even now when I hear it, like I feel myself get emotional because it brings you back. Even the Farm Boy song in that, like just runs you.
Oh, you just did the fireworks song just recently.
Yeah, Interrupted by Fireworks. Yeah.
One of my absolute favorites from that one. And I was like, oh, that was like I was like, oh, she has to have this one. I was like, oh, that was like not too long, like within the last month or two.
Super recent. Yeah. Someone recommended that. I'm like, how have I not done that one yet? I'm a bad
and it's
teacher.
great.
Yeah. It's actually not super hard. There's
but it's so pretty.
Weird technical things. Yeah, it's super pretty.
And I don't think you've done Radical Dreamers yet. I always live streams. I'm always the one who's chiming that one in there.
Which one is that one?
That's a Chrono Trigger.
You wouldn't know the
Chrono Cross.
You've blocked Tyler by now,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you're not actually getting his stuff's not coming through.
Yeah.
No, it's been a while since I've done Chrono Trigger, and I don't have a good reason
Was that
for
Chrono
it.
Cross,
This is
Tyler?
Chrono
Sorry.
Cross.
Chrono
Yeah,
Cross,
I'll send
the
you a
sequel.
link to it so you can
Please
hear
do.
it.
Yeah.
It's actually mainly on like guitar, but I'll send you a version of it that's
Some guitar pieces translate well to piano.
Do you
Not
also
all,
play
but
guitar?
some. I can fuck with a few. Sorry. Like I can.
That's okay.
It's allowed.
Okay, cool. I
Matt's
can
just
fuck.
not swearing.
I'm just not swearing.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a
I'll
new
do
thing
it.
for
I'll do
me.
it for both of us. So like I can mess around with a few chords. I mean, the great thing about piano is like, because like I did the classical route, classically trained, and so like when I just like found a guitar in high school, it wasn't too hard to like take over a lot of musical skills and move that over there. It's just my delicate fingers don't like the strings, so I can do some chords.
It hurts my
It's funny because
hands.
I feel like when I play piano, like I grew up, plunking around on my grandma's piano.
Mhm.
And now that piano, actually, the cool thing is that it was an old like upright. It made its way down. I've been able to actually now have it in my studio. But I am the one guy
Nice.
that doesn't play piano and everybody. I do it all by ear, and have written stuff just by ear, but how it sounds, how it feels. And I do have to say that when I watched your videos, it was so fun for me to feel like you made it look like it was doable. for somebody like
Okay,
me.
good.
No, like who doesn't, who I'm not a piano player. So it
Yeah.
was so cool watching. I was watching with my daughter. She's 7, and we were both like, this is so neat. Like the way that even as you're playing, it was so effortless to watch you move over that I was like, oh man, I've been really like, because I
Scared
am
of it. You're like,
literally,
I can do my hands. Oh, I can do that.
it
Why
did, but I
not?
saw her do it, and I was like, and my daughter and I were talking, we're just like, I was like, that's not as hard as like, because here I am, I have no idea what the heck I'm doing. I just literally,
Yeah.
this sounds really beautiful, and I just play whatever I think sounds beautiful. So it was very cool. I was actually like going to say that I loved that aspect of the way that you laid it out, the way that you talk, the way that you even explain it. It just makes it feel like I can do it, which was a cool thing, because that's when someone's teaching you that and you're like, oh, I actually feel like I can do this. It's a very
Totally.
cool, because I am
Good.
the guy that doesn't play. I'm a guitar player.
Yeah. Well, like the thing is you can do it. Like, and I'm not like being facetious or like
Thank
patronizing.
you.
Like you can do it. Like people forget that like music is so physical. Like you're using your body. And so
Your
like
memory.
yeah, your memory. It's like it's all physical. So like I remember when I first started smoking piano, there's like all these tutorials on YouTube, which it's just synesthesia, it's just the falling notes. I'm
Yeah.
like, this
I know
is
exactly the ones.
just a MIDI performance. This is not a tutorial.
Mhm.
You have to show the fingering, you have to show the body, because like that is how the music is made. And like and again, piano is such a visual instrument. Like you literally like push a button in front of you and
Yeah.
sound comes out, which is really nice.
Low
And
notes
so-
over there, high notes over here. That's
Yeah,
the rules.
yeah.
Well, you
That's
also
the
took
rules.
it though. You, for me, it was so neat because the way that you would move, the way that I naturally would do it, because I'm not trained in it in any way. I didn't
Mhm.
realize you could do that. So I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that just looked really easy.
Yeah.
Like in the way that you did it. So it actually, and it's funny because we went downstairs and we were plunking around on the piano, because I was like, wow, she actually made it like, because again, like I said, it's very much to me, it's always been, well, this sounds beautiful. I could never tell you what I'm playing.
Yeah.
So whenever I would write things, it was always funny because like, what keys? And I'm like, I think that's C there. And then it's going to make its way, but I could play no problem and go through, but it's just all by ear. So when you were laying it out, I like how you were just mentioning it's not just the following that, because that is just watching a MIDI performance. But
Even how when you're just giving someone the brief of like, hey, this one's a waltz, just so you know, and whether that gets people down that path of like, well, what does that mean? It's like there's so
Yeah.
much to learn about this. Like the counting threes over here. This one's counting in 4. Tyler, you're
Yeah.
gonna love 6/8. Everything
6/8.
Tyler does is ends up in
6/8
6/8.
great.
I love
That's
it.
a good key.
Does
That's
it
a good
really?
key. That's actually
Yeah,
good.
his
I
timing, like if he's making a new song,
I'd always
it's-
write something, but guys, listen to this. Let me play, and I'm like, and then they start swaying, and I'm like, oh, damn it.
everything all the time.
You
I
just
just
know
like
what
it.
you're about. That's good.
I just
that's,
like-
that's your time,
I
man.
like to
He
sway.
likes the sway.
nice, pretty nice.
I like how you sing along when you do your lessons. You know,
Oh gosh, that's really funny because I actually had a student tell me like, "Hey, that's kind of annoying." I'm like, "Oh,
no way.
I'm gonna talk real talk right here. Comment
It's-
card.
Yeah.
one.
It's good feedback. It's good feedback. Like sometimes, like I think I'm very funny, so I can like dial it back every now and then.
You
for
got
a
me with your
lesson, you know?
jam video. I really wanted to see us with the face. I was like, she's gonna play some pretty crazy stuff, and then I was like, I would eat that sandwich.
That
I'm
was
not
great.
disappointed. That was great.
I-
And the
it
tiny
was fun.
hands.
Yeah,
Yeah, the tiny
yeah.
hands. Yeah, I love that. Like after I recorded that tiny hands video, like I took them off and like my actual hands looked like just abnormally large for a while. Like,
This is so
oh,
entertaining.
monsters.
Oh my God.
right. It's fun. Yeah, actually, I'll give you guys some insight into like the next video I'm doing. So like one thing I've started doing now is like do like actual more YouTube stuff. Like because normally I just post tutorials and performances
Yep.
because that's my bread and butter. That's my jam. That's what gets people excited. So I don't know why I thought this was a good idea, but I started transcribing the Pokemon cries from the first gen and
No way.
into like notating them. Because
Like
some
the-
of them are actually musical.
Like the little sounds they make in
Yeah.
the battles
Yeah.
and stuff.
Oh yeah. So fun fact, Firo, who shares like a bass sound with like Zapdos and other Pokemon, is just a whole tone scale in major thirds. So it's like da 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 da. So that was
I
fun to figure out.
love you're figuring this out.
That's
Oh,
my
that's-
goodness.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome actually. So
Yeah.
you got in on Pokemon right with the old Game Boys like Red and Blue.
Yeah. Like the old
Okay,
sounds.
so starters, everybody. Like
Oh,
I went
here we go.
Charmander because I was a kid and I have red hair. So I'm Charmander. I want the fire one. It was a good time.
I was Charmander too.
How did you like it's phenomenal to me. Like, first of all, let's go back to like when you originally started the pod. How did you just go, this is what I'm gonna do? Something totally, because it's so unique.
Totally.
Gosh, it's not like one big thing decided it. It was a lot of little things. One of the little things, like I was always fascinated by YouTubers, just because like they put themselves out there, they made themselves basically professionals in their area, whether it was blogging or baking or politics, or
Literally any
whatever.
hobby.
Literally anything. They made a name for themselves, and I always admired that and respected it and kind of wanted to do it. And part of the reason is like after I just finished grad school, a lot of my friends continued on to do, like the musician thing. A lot of friends continued on to go, get their doctorates and stuff. And I was really disenchanted by kind of both of those paths because of my graduate studies. I did scoring for film and multimedia in NYU.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's not that impressive. It's just like you learn a lot, you meet a lot of cool people, which that was awesome. Became really disenchanted with like how political it is, how it's who you know, not what you know, and just how higher education is just like, it's great, it's awesome, but it does not spark joy for me. And whenever I would introduce myself to somebody like, hi, I'm Sydney, I'm a pianist, and it was a non-musician, they would often respond with, oh, I wish I kept it up. Oh, I used to play, but I quit. And they would just respond to me with their regrets. And it was like, I don't want to introduce myself. And then people immediately respond with like their regrets and their like in life. Like, that sucks. Like,
You just started saying, hi, I'm Sydney. Can you please tell me your regrets?
Yeah.
That's how you started everything.
I'd like to hear your biggest
Please
regret
tell me your regrets.
first, and then I'll tell you what I
Okay.
do.
What's the worst thing that you hate about your life in
Yeah,
your past,
totally,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Okay. Get that out
so
of the way.
Smart Game Piano was kind of inspired by that. Is like, there's so many nerds out there who just aren't, who don't jive with the classical music world. Like, and I love the classical music world a lot. Like, that's what I know. That's what I studied in. It can be such an ivory tower, and it can be so daunting and intimidating. And music is like, should not be that even a little bit. And so I thought like, well, I love video game music. I love anime music. Like, why not make that a source
Marry
of
those together.
Yeah. And why not be that a way to learn? Because we learn best when we're passionate about something. And so many people are passionate about video game music, like way more than I think the general population realizes.
2 out of 3 in this room.
Yeah.
Too passionate about it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Who are the two?
3 of us.
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4 of us are all.
Whoa.
We're
I
nerds.
feel I'm getting thrown out of the bus here.
Right. So yeah, that's
too
kind of
cool.
how it started. Yeah. Yeah. By the way,
Definitely not.
best starter is Squirtle. Yeah. So
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Squirtle.
yeah.
Did you play Pokemon Go when it came out?
I did.
Got
I
way
was
too into it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So he was like,
Oh.
I was on my bike.
Like, were you the guy running around at like the Stanley Park trying to like?
not
we
even
could cut
like,
some of this out, but I did way too much.
We're not cutting any of this out. You need to share what you did.
Like, I
Own
don't-
up to it.
Once I found that app that showed you on the street like where Pokemon were,
like the undercover app.
you had
Yeah,
like
like,
an extra
it got-
app and everything.
Yeah,
too.
Then
yeah.
it got-
the next level.
that's what
driving
got
around
real
in a
fun.
van. Be like, I think there's one 15 blocks this
there's
way.
a Blastoise, but
He's
the
not
Langley
telling the
Event
truth. He
Center.
bought a whole new other phone so that he could do this.
No, but I
That's
did get a bike
dedication.
mount. I did get a bike mount and route around with it to hatch my eggs.
That's good exercise. That's how
was.
it works in the game. It's just
Yeah.
the game coming to life.
She's too positive.
There was one moment that was like a funny.
What do you regret?
It was it's both a regret and a cool moment. It was like way too late / early in the morning. I saw there was a Squirtle.
Gotta get that Squirtle.
It was only a few blocks away.
What
and
time was it?
it was probably after midnight. It was after midnight,
After 1 a.m.
probably closer to that.
After-
And then so I'm
after
going
2
on my
a.m.?
bike, and then I get the Squirtle, and I'm
Nice.
like, yes. And I'm heading home, and then I see 2 kids on their skateboards, kind of like looking around in the area, like skating around. I'm like, you guys looking for the Squirtle? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, it's over there. And they're like, thanks, man. And I'm like, all right.
That's really
Did you think
endearing.
to yourself at one point like, life is good?
This is what I'm
I'm
doing
a
right
nice
now.
human.
So how many
I'm
Pokemon?
a really nice human.
How many Pokemon sounds have you got down so
Dude, I love
far?
that story.
I've got 25 down, and I'm gonna stop there.
Okay.
Because some of them you can't transcribe. Like Voltorb is just a and
Yeah,
that's
like
like
it's
not
static.
pitch. Yeah,
You
right.
should hit all the keys at once.
What
I
if we
mean,
develop an app
one
that
could.
can actually take that sound in and it can figure it out?
It's a
so it can suck it
microtonal.
out for you. and
Well,
tell you,
actually,
"I'm
like when I
good."
was doing research for that, I saw a really great video. It was Generation 1 Pokemon Cries Explained. I can't remember the YouTuber, but it was the guy who like talked about like how the synthesizers worked in the Game Boy to
Oh,
make
okay.
those sounds.
'Cause
That was
really-
cool.
Really limited technology, and that's why I
Yeah.
loved how much passion they put into these beautiful melodies, really, and these songs, these catchy things that like just glued me right in there.
Totally.
Yeah.
I actually remember who was it working with a guy in the studio that had written a bunch of music using his Game Boy. And
Yeah,
was-
chiptune stuff. Yeah.
It was the coolest thing because I could not believe what they were coming up with just
Mhm.
this. And then like another random thought, but when you guys were talking about earlier, did Michael Jackson work on a
He has a great
Sonic
game.
3.
That's
no,
what
his
it
music
was.
is in
Sonic
that, but there's
3.
actually another game where you play as Michael Jackson and you try to rescue kids out of this bar as the first level. It's like those
Uh-oh.
fever dream games that you played
No,
as
but
an
he did
arcade as a
no, but the
kid.
music though. He
Yeah,
did the
Sonic.
music. Sonic.
He
that's what it
wrote
was.
Sonic
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But then he
Totally
didn't get
random,
officially
sorry.
credited, and then but he
That's
had his
pretty
own
cool.
game like
That's a fun little
Moonwalker.
factoid. Yeah.
Moonwalker. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a really
E.
weird,
Cheese.
yeah, like a Chuck E. Cheese game, like those
That-
fever dream games. You're like, I think I played that as a kid. Like he
Like a
was,
Mandela effect. Did this exist?
Yeah,
Did I
did
play
it exist?
Yeah.
When
It's
did-
funny. It's funny you bring up the Michael Jackson on the Sonic thing. Like if you take any of the Sonic, like from Sonic 2 or Sonic 3, and you take any of those songs, they're basically just lo-fi versions of glitch hop, which is an electronic genre now.
That
And
makes sense.
it's like
Hmm.
it's just bigger kick drums, but it's essentially the same thing.
That's
Just
very cool.
That's
Well,
really
Sonic is so good at that like high energy.
funk, like high
Nailed it.
energy, heavy funk stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. I totally buy that.
They're actually filming the new Sonic just down
Yeah.
the street right now.
It's
They're
really
doing
busy. And
another
I know.
one.
Yeah.
Another one. Yeah. Once
But
they
Tails will be in it.
Fort Langley
Tails
is
will be in it.
impossible to. I went to go get sushi yesterday, and it was a chore because
Yeah.
there's like
They are
cops have the whole
helicoptering in
thing
Jim Carrey
closed,
for
like-
his scene, and he gets helicoptered out.
Aw.
He's Dr.
That's-
Robotnik, but he gets to come in and
Certain things that scares me when you see video games get a chance to, like when they're gonna make it into a movie, and you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
Just because I think part of it is with the attachment of where we were at that time in our lives, the time that's invested. It's like it's a big thing to also go, hey, we're just going to turn it into an hour and a half. You know,
But it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah,
I saw it with
remember
my son. I
remember
would
the
highly
Mario
recommend
movie?
Sonic.
Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat
Sonic?
coming
Yeah,
out.
the new Sonic's fantastic.
Oh,
If you watch a
cool.
lot of kids' movies, there was that in theaters. This was in the olden times, seeing it in theaters. And right before Detective Pikachu, which was it
Awesome.
real life
Awesome.
Pokemon? Awesome. You're gonna watch the movie with the kids?
I liked Detective Pikachu.
It was
that
fantastic.
That was fun.
better than
That was-
Sonic.
that was
Like if
good.
I watch.
Oh,
one of
because
them-
I'm a much more partial
Okay.
to Pokemon than I am to Sonic for child. I was a Nintendo kid. I didn't own any Sega Genesis games, or it was like those fever
That's-
dream memories of a kid when you're in the
I-
other kid's house and they've got it and you
Yeah,
want to play it.
I sat down in the group of 10 watching somebody else play Sonic. Those
Yeah.
kind of parties.
Those kind of parties. Like we went from the piano,
Yeah,
we're
I
all done
remember
playing the
that.
songs on the piano, then one kid plays the video game. But
That's cool.
We'd be walking around
Right.
in a mob is in like high school or early high school, and Josh would have his DS with them, and he'd be like playing it. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Doing
Yeah.
his thing.
I get
Yeah.
it.
it's great.
Totally
You
get
had
it.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. That was it was Game Boy Advance for me when I was in high school. Yeah. It's not
Game
that
Boy
cool.
Advance.
Yeah.
So
I
when
like
did-
that.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah.
I like that pink one. Like
Oh, yeah.
the original one. I loved it. It was great.
I was so stoked to get the classic NES one.
That's a good looking Game Boy.
Yeah, it's a classic.
The classic. Check it out, man.
It's got Minish Cap inside. if
Oh,
Oh,
anyone knows about it.
preloaded. Those were, was that the
Nope,
Capcom
no,
ones?
the cartridges. In
How
there.
old were you when you wrote your name on that?
Yeah.
Like last year?
24.
I just did that
It was
before I
last
came here. I
year.
didn't want you guys stealing it.
It's Tyler C.
It's Tyler C. Thank you very
It's just
much.
like Woody across the foot.
This is so cool.
Just you don't want to mess up with any of the other Tylers who might have one of those.
So,
Mhm.
do you have any
I'd be okay with this
international
as a phone.
students right now?
Oh yeah, a bunch. There are a bunch of European students. I actually talked to a Chilean student today, who's somebody who just signed up. Yeah, it's mostly European. Have some French, German, a Norwegian dude, Chilean, lots of Brazilians, which is kind of fun. Yeah, it's all across the board, which is really neat. I love
So
it.
with
Awesome.
Are you just with more people staying at home? Did you get like a big influx of all these
Yeah.
people coming in? And it was just how did that work for you
That's
to
great.
change up your style? Then did you have to?
It
What,
made
like a
me
24-hour clock, or-
realize- oh gosh, I'm self-employed, so I can do what I want, and I can't do what I want at all. It's a weird mix. So like, I have all of this time and freedom to explore a bunch of tunes, to do a bunch of reading on how to teach, because I didn't go to school for pedagogy at all. So I had to learn all this kind of like through the business. And my first couple years of teaching were not good.
Okay.
And so I'm really grateful that when this influx of students came, that it been greatly improved. Made me realize like kind of what my strengths are, what I need to put my time into, and that is continuously doing tutorials a day. Because if I literally just counted like Smart Game Piano is at 550 tutorials right
It's
now.
amazing.
I don't.
That's
Yeah,
going at a
And
good
that's
clip.
all you.
it's
all
it's gosh, yeah.
That's
Most of
unbelievable.
them, the first few arrangements I got from other sources, but then I thought like, well, no, I can't do that. Like, and plus there's not always a good arrangement for something out there.
Which is why I find your site so valuable, because you
Yeah.
can't just
Yeah.
go and buy it at the store.
Yeah, which and if people don't like want to use my site, they can like buy the sheet music through musicnotes.com if they'd rather learn that way. And that's not to say that there aren't great arrangers out there floating on their internet. There are, and there's some arrangers who do really beautiful pianistic things. Like somebody who inspired me was Kyle Landry. He does a lot of like nerd tunes. He'll do movies, cartoons, video games, stuff like that. And he's very intricate, very classically inspired, very virtuosic kind of playing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when there's a song that somebody wanted me to teach, there just wouldn't be sheet music of it. Or if there was an amateur who did really try their best, but either didn't transcribe it correctly or didn't notate it in a way that was, friendly to their performer. And so one thing that I think I can be proud of and brag of is like, you're going to get a good arrangement. Like you're going to get a good product. Yeah. And that's where I'm
how long
really
does it take you to
grateful.
transcribe?
It depends. So like for example, I don't know if you're familiar with Final Fantasy 14. I did like
Yeah, the
Tomorrow.
online one, yeah.
Yeah. I did a tune called Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which was like a rock ballad, but also had like this like 16 bar piano virtuoso. And I'm like, damn. All right, here we go. So that could take like a day or two, depending on how intricate it is. But like the other day, what did I arrange? What did I arrange the other day? Like something from Undertale takes like less than an hour or something like that. Really melodic stuff, it really depends on the tune.
So one of the things you said was you weren't really a good teacher. Why did you feel like you weren't a good teacher in the beginning?
Part of it was resistance to becoming a teacher, and part of it was lack of experience. Like in order to be a good teacher, you have to just take yourself less seriously. like
That's the opposite of the childhood lesson. Like,
yes,
tale as old as time when you're a kid and you remember your first
Yes.
piano lesson and she's going to say C and you're going to C,
Yeah.
D, and you're just going to like slowly play and she's got a metronome going back and forth.
Yeah,
yeah.
which that's stupid and I hate it. Like it's like
It wasn't enjoyable as a child as much, but I
No,
still loved the
like-
piano so much I stuck through it.
Yeah.
And then you get
Yeah,
better
which-
teachers. So like,
which is great. Yeah, which is great. No, and I was heavily influenced by like a piano studio that I worked at when I lived up in Fort Collins in Colorado. My teacher, I guess he was a teacher in a way to be. He taught me how to teach. Was like, don't take your tutors seriously. Ask the student how they are. We care about them. Like that's the first thing you should ask. What did you do today? How are you? I was like, oh my god, like duh, like like why didn't I think of that? But also things like, we're here to obviously bring value and provide structure, but like at the end of the day, these are students who are just gaining a skill. And so it should be fun. It should be constructive. Yeah, they might cry. Yeah, they may mess up. But, and in my resistance to it was like, so I went to school to compose and I also do compose on the side. Not so much just because the Smart Game Piano takes a lot of my time, but like that's an unfortunate default for a lot of women who go into music. Especially like in the classical realm, especially in the piano realm, like, oh, I want to do music, but they just end up becoming a teacher. Like you don't see a lot of female composers, period, let alone in the video game music world. So when I discovered that I had an aptitude for teaching, I was like, no, I'm not going to be that chick.
Oh, no.
I'm not going to fall into that stereotype. But I've learned to get over that, like get over my ego, because that's what it is, and just be like, no, I can teach and I can do this and it could be positive and it doesn't have to be that, become that old lady down at the road.
Totally.
I can do it my way.
Yeah, because you do
That's
it your
cool.
way.
Yeah,
It's totally different.
Yeah.
I
Not
used
to
feel
bash
that
on the
way.
old lady down the street.
Yeah,
I love
they're
you
great.
so much, but like, no, thank you.
We
Like,
love you, Fran.
Yeah.
No, I felt that way about like because me and Josh played in like a rock group for years and years, and then we played in like a hip hop R&B group for years and years. And
Nice.
I used to think like of playing in a cover band. I was like, no, that's like that was how I felt about that.
Okay.
I picture like
yeah.
that old dude wearing like a literally like I've seen this wearing like a flame button up like Charlie Sheen shirt doing like
Sure.
heart covers, and I was like, no, never can do that. And then when I finally like started playing like when I was learning piano, one thing
Mhm.
I did to make myself learn more was I joined my old drummer. He had a cover band. They needed a keyboard player, and I was like, yeah, sure. He's like, oh, it'll be horns and some extra adding, additional stuff. It won't be too bad. And I'm like, okay, well, this would be great to make me learn, so I don't look like an idiot. And then the first couple of sets, he's like, oh, Stevie Wonder Wish and this. And I'm like, I thought you said it was gonna be like horns.
Yeah.
But that,
Background pads,
oh, and
atmosphere.
I remember like a
Mhm.
week before playing like I got the bass, like the dope, 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 dope. I got
Nice.
that down. And then I started doing my other hand and I'm like, no. And it had like a week and instantly I'm like hot. Gotta go to the bathroom. It's like, oh no, I'm not ready. And then when you got it though, when I got it, and now that's like my go-to, like here at the studio and someone's got the Steinway. I'm like, oh yeah, we got the Steinway. Check. Oh, let me sit down. I can play a little bit.
Show you how it works.
He's still going to the washroom though.
That was a
Yeah.
formative experience.
It really was. And then but then when I started playing in that cover band, it made me actually realize like how much I missed like learning those
Yeah.
songs, and you let my ego kind of hold me back from that.
Hmm.
So
I can see that.
When you're getting paid to do the things you love, really, it's like,
Yeah.
well, you shouldn't be like, they
Yeah.
only paid me to sing today. It's like, I got paid to sing today. Like,
Yeah.
you had a lot of fun
There
with
you
those.
go. Yeah, that's a good mindset. I really like
yeah.
that.
You learn things too, like when you, I mean, I felt the same way. Like it was always like learning a cover when we would tour. We always had a rule that it was like when we go on tour anywhere around the world, it was a matter of like we would do say 2 or 3 originals and we'd always throw a cover in just so it was a way for the audience, because out of respect for them too, that we knew, like I always felt honored to be there and it was like a huge privilege. So I was like, I don't want them to get bored of this new act. I'd like them to,
Mm.
and even if it is a song that's familiar that just keeps them listening to us, I'd love them to be like, you remember that band that did, and for us it was like, so we started with like Sabotage by Beastie Boys because nobody did that, and then we got
Nice.
known for that song. And but I remember actually just being like, I'd found that sometimes actually it was harder for me to remember the covers because I was just like, well, I want to play our originals.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't invest as much in learning. But then I realized there was so many little cool techniques that these amazing like artists had done in their songs that
Mhm.
I ended up later we would introduce into our music because you'd learned it through, like you
Yeah.
mentioned, like putting it into like going, wow, this is, I would have never thought to do this.
A new tool.
Yeah.
Belt.
For
Yeah.
your compositions,
Yeah.
how influenced are you by your favorite video game music? Is that like you got to move away from it? Are you trying to, is it just like you can't help it? It's going to be influenced by all the stuff you know already? Like,
Yeah, fortunately, I'm writing for games. Like right now, I'm writing for a game right now, so I don't have to do that divide too much.
Awesome.
But when I'm like trying to do something on my own, I like to go back to like that weird 20th century like piano vibe. Like how can I? And it's mostly just kind of like for me, art for artist's sake, and it's not something like I put out there. But actually, if I could shameless plug for a second.
No.
I just
Yeah.
okay. Bye.
we only do shameful plugs.
Yeah,
You have to be
shameful
really
plugs here.
embarrassed.
You
about
stopped
I'm
that.
so fast on that one. I'm really sorry.
super embarrassed by this. I'm super ashamed about it. But
Thank you.
yeah, that's not better. Okay. I have a piece that's actually being performed online this Saturday. A doctoral student heard one of my pieces and wanted to play it. It's
Oh,
a double woodwind quintet, which I wrote last year and was premiered last year. And so that's pretty exciting.
That's unreal.
Where is
that
she
one-
playing it?
Zach
Oh,
Zach
his.
Cheever, yeah, a doctoral student. He's performing it at Boulder College, like University of Colorado.
How
And it's
cool
gonna
is that?
be yeah, it's really cool. So it's gonna be a live streamed event because they're pretty serious about their
Yep.
restrictions with COVID and everything. But if you guys want the link to it, it's gonna be
Please.
this Saturday.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Wow,
Yeah, and-
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you. It's
Yeah,
actually
this-
really
That is
fun.
so cool.
It's really funny because I was chatting with him Friday and he's like, oh, do you know this composer, Kimberly Osberg? And I'm like, yeah, she was a freshman at my school when I was a sophomore, like at college. He's like, what? No way. Like, oh my God. So like,
that's hilarious.
there's 2 of us representing our underground. Like, hell yeah.
That's
hell yeah.
awesome.
That was really
Very
funny.
cool.
This
Yeah.
podcast will be out on the Friday before, so we'll put the link in there
Oh,
on
cool.
the,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
when we post it for sure.
That's
Yeah,
very
it's definitely weird. I don't know if you guys are familiar with double woodwind quintets or like woodwind quintets in general.
Not so much. No.
I've
Yeah.
I've played
I was,
around with sample libraries of woodwinds, but
Okay. Yeah.
So in my like music career of learning piano first, right? And then I joined cadets. And then instead of joining the brass band where I would have learned more about like symphonic and like marching music, I played bagpipes. So I went down the
That's-
like
dope though.
bagpipe route. It is super dope. And up in BC, there's a lot of like, we'll get a bagpiper on. You guys are cool bagpiper soon. I promise I'll make it cool again for you guys.
I did a
It's
bit
always
of
been cool. Don't worry.
Yes, it has
I
always been cool. That's correct.
played trombone at college for
So you're
performance
probably the
majors,
most
so I'm a
educated
little
about
bit
this, Dave?
More educated about the like chamber bands and all that kind of or
Mhm.
chamber ensembles and all that kind of
So
stuff.
how long is this piece then?
It's like 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay,
Not super
cool.
long. Yeah.
So
yeah.
did you write that for woodwinds or
Yeah, I was commissioned by actually a professor over at Kenosha, in the music school in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and he actually commissioned me before. His theme was like women composers, and he thought of me. I was
Yep.
like, oh my god, thanks. So that was really flattering. That was really nice.
now do you do all the like transposition based
Mhm.
on the instruments all yourself and
Mhm.
all that kind
Yep.
of stuff?
Yeah.
So you're a genius.
Yeah, that's
cool.
awesome.
That's
So
No.
when he reached, sorry, go ahead, keep going.
No, I mean this very, very sincerely. Like, and this is not like me humble bragging or some junk. Like, I really sincerely don't think like I'm musically gifted. I just love it. So like,
Okay,
like
so you just
that's-
kept at it.
Well,
No,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what makes you so special. That's
Totally, yeah.
that's the best part.
from it would be cool for like coming from a student slash fan. Like we'd like to hear that stuff for sure. Cause I was wondering that myself, thinking like
Mhm.
if you've got stuff out there.
I don't like to push it on Smart Game Piano because that's not for me.
different
That's
thing,
for
yeah.
Totally
students.
different.
Yeah.
Thing, right?
Yeah. That's
So
like
that composer that reached out to you, is that the same? Like you were speaking earlier about just how is that world kind of sort of a male dominated
Yeah.
industry? But he
Absolutely.
reached out to you, which is flipping
Yeah.
awesome.
I think there's a lot more of a conscious effort from people, especially in the art world, that are being a little bit more deliberate about which artists they feature, which artists they promote, which artists they commission. And he actually explicitly talked about that, like how he wants more people of color on the program. He wants to have more
Yep.
women.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And he said, like, I don't want to knock on the old dead white guys because clearly their music is influential, substantial, amazing, incredible, but that's like not the only good thing out there.
Yeah.
And that's like the mindset I like to follow too. Like, definitely love the classics, study the classics, go to the classics, and like push yourself to like listen
Yeah.
things that you wouldn't necessarily choose or actively seek out by yourself, you know.
Just while you are
Yeah.
on that, what's your favorite classics?
I'm a
in terms of
sucker
composers?
like any pianist, Chopin, because he was like
Yeah.
the first composer that really figured out how the piano could shine, you know.
Yeah.
He really figured out the intricacies of it. I used to be really big into Scriabin, who was a Russian composer, absolutely crazy bonkers madman, who kind of like, because if you like, I don't know how much you guys know about the classical world, but Russian music is just kind of like,
Bonkers.
okay guys, yeah, absolutely bonkers.
I want
Absolutely.
a time machine. I'd be like, I want to just watch one of them live and just be like, everyone, like, I don't know how many people would watch them, but that must have been insane.
Dude,
like, you're gonna go watch this
In
guy.
Soviet
boogie-
Russia too,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like
It would be cold there. We'd have to wear jackets.
yeah, that's why
Yeah.
they were crazy. Like
Yeah.
they were just
Insane.
Have you ever listened to much Eric Whitaker?
a little bit. He was really, really loved at, so I went to Luther College for undergrad, and that was like a big choir school. And so like all of my singer friends had such a hard on for him. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's nice. Like
He's even got a Spitfire library,
good for him.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric Whitaker Choir.
Yeah.
Did you see the movie The Joker?
I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Great score in that.
Oh
I-
my gosh.
Who did
super
that
good.
one?
Hildur, I don't know how to pronounce your last name, but Gwenadatir.
Yeah.
So-
She,
It made me
I-
feel like I was going through it with them, like watching
Yeah.
it in the like the
It was
zoo, the
amazing.
like, "Ugh, I'm so uncomfortable, but I enjoyed this so much.
it was a really good choice. Like I hadn't heard of that composer before, and I was like, whoa, this is appropriate. This is very, very good.
Yeah, and it was award winning, wasn't it? I believe.
It got nominated. It did
Okay.
it. Did it win?
I
Let me
feel
look
like
that
it did, but maybe not.
It won in my heart.
It won
Won
my
in
heart.
your-
Yeah,
That's
that's
where
for
all
sure.
that matters. I loved it.
I'm gonna look that up.
I know it took us, my wife and I watched it. I think it took us 3 sittings to get through it.
Yeah.
We started, and
It's
I remember,
hard,
I
eh?
remember at one point we looked at each other, and I was like, I don't think we've been breathing.
Yeah,
And
it just-
we actually took a break, and we paused, and we like were just like, I think we took a sip of wine, and we're sitting there, and we just talked about what we were experiencing because it was done so well. And that's the
Yeah.
one thing I've always loved, that the power of like when you bring together art in so many different forms and people's perspective, like the way that it was written, like the music, how it matched even the color like choice that they did for color correction, the way that they lit the rooms, the way that they had the actor and the actresses, the way that they had like even the way that the characters of the locations, right? Like even that freaking staircase, how that
I was
became
just thinking that.
a
Yeah.
character. And it's like all of that stuff, and it just emotionally, like I remember there was points where, and both my wife and I are very emotional people as it is, but we sat there and we're just like, yeah, it took us 3 times to get through it. And in the end, I remember we said, I don't think we can recommend this to anybody. Because it was just one of those things that like I wasn't sure what people would say, like because it meant we loved it, but it took us 3 nights to get through it. Like
that's we were gonna watch. We ended up seeing that in theater, so there wasn't a way to stop it. So it was with a big group of people, and it was just it was just going through it. But the movie we were gonna watch, it wasn't there. I don't know if anyone else has seen The Lighthouse.
I saw parts of it. Yeah.
I can't. I don't usually stop in a movie. I have to stop maybe more than 3 times. You have to watch it with captions.
Really?
In a dark room. It's filmed like it's from the 1920s, and it's just a 2-person Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson going crazy in a lighthouse. And I'm not necessarily recommending you to watch it, but I think I enjoyed it, but I'd never want to see it in the theaters with other people.
So I'm gonna do that after this podcast then.
Yeah, just put on some headphones, captions.
Cool.
That's my favorite.
Yeah.
Scary movies in the dark.
That's how we got into anime. With Tyler worked at Blockbuster back in the day, and they insisted that we watched as many Winchels as we could. And once you get through all the regular movies, you get hooked on the anime.
Oh yeah, we loved anime.
Yeah.
Spirited Away.
Yeah, that's
good stuff.
I would always play the Always With You piano versions when I was doing wedding DJ stuff, and you'd always find all the nerds in the room, and they'd come over like the
you
dude
can tell.
They came over and they're like, I noticed that. And like instrumental string quartet versions of video game music over dinner, and everyone's being really classy. Then all of a sudden you get those people looking over at you, and you're like,
oh yeah.
I've done that. I played some Minecraft music like before like the main music at a wedding, and this one dude was like, "Girl," I was like, "Yeah, I found one." It's always
that's
nice.
awesome.
By the way, you were right. It did win best score.
Fact check.
Yeah.
Fact check live. John Baptiste, I think from Stephen Colbert, Late Show. There's been so many times where I've been like, you listen to them coming out of break, and he's playing like Final Fantasy, like Those Who Fight Further, like they're playing like a song from
the band leader.
Music.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard Lost Woods one time.
Yeah. Like they're playing. Yeah. They'll come out of a video game song. Yeah.
I did not know that. I'm going
cool.
to. That's what I'm doing after this.
Yeah, I love it.
That's very
cool.
It's funny how that's all it takes. I find if I meet somebody who's like a musician or in like that kind of music, like you have like instant camaraderie. You know what I mean? Like if I meet another bald guy, I'm like, oh yeah, we're on the same team.
Yeah, I can totally relate.
Yeah, you know what it's like, right?
Totally.
Sure. Is it just me or is my microphone really low compared to everybody else?
I think
it keeps dipping. It's like comically dipping throughout the episode.
There we go.
Thank you.
He's back in action.
I wanted to ask you a question. You were talking earlier, but it was like way back when you were talking about schooling and talking about meeting people and regret.
Yeah.
And you talked about wanting to do something that brought you joy, and I wanted to ask you what brought you joy. What brings you joy?
Accomplishments, experiences. And it sounds so cheesy, but music really did save my life. In a lot of ways, because it was something stable, something that I can control, something that couldn't be taken away from me. Because like I actually if this is like too heavy, like you can cut this out, but like in September 2017 I actually lost my partner of 7 years in a car accident, and that ruined my life, like completely ruined my life. And doing Smart Game Piano and doing music was something that made life worth living, because in the time, what I thought was stable wasn't, what I thought was going to be forever wasn't. And, you change, your mindset change, your belief sets change. And I like semi-seriously joke to people like, my brain broke, I forgot how to play piano. And I actually kind of did for a little bit. Like I would sit down at the piano and just like went, I don't know. But like once like I spent some time resting, it came back. And when I could experience joy again, it was something involved in music, either playing, listening, talking to others, going to conventions with other nerds talking about music, like truly just, gosh, music, like literally music brings me joy.
That's amazing.
Well, thank you. Like, first of all, like, I mean, really sorry to hear that, and thank you for being brave enough to share that with us, because it's
Yeah.
something that
We want to hear people on the
Yeah.
show talk about real stuff in real life, because that's how you, I don't know, persevere in the arts, is if you're
Yeah.
not extremely passionate for it, and you have to have that love for it. I don't know, sitting in front of a piano, like working through those emotions and the really, really hard times. I'm like, well, I'm just going to sit, and whatever comes out, comes out. And like you say,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the worst part would be to sit at that piano and not, like, we're blessed here with a beautiful instrument, and every single time I come over, I'm gonna play it. I'm sorry, everybody,
Yeah.
I have to. I can't not, because it's just this like,
Yeah.
oh wow, this
Yeah.
just feels so good right now.
I
Mhm.
remember when that happened and you made the video letting us all know about it. I remember being in my work van.
Yep.
That's a
Okay. So
heavy-
yeah. So you were there way back when then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Right.
being like crying in my work van when you put like your video, because you're like, you let it all out, and I was like, this is
Mhm.
like terrible. And just how strong you were through it, and like how you kind of stuck it out. And I was super impressed by how you like, a lot of people would kind of give up and just
Oh,
be
trust me,
defeated,
some
right?
giving up did happen, just like
Yeah.
and like behind the scenes. And like that's one weird thing that I had to learn too. Like people would tell me all the time that I was strong and so positive, and I don't feel like a strong person, and I don't feel like a positive person. But like that's okay, because I think that can be applied to the arts really, really easily. Like you may not feel good enough, you
Yeah.
may not feel motivated, you may not feel talented, but you are doing more and you're so much capable of more than you might be recognizing. And so like when I teach and when I talk to people, I fully embrace the darkness. Like you're having a bad day and you're practicing sucks. You're having a bad day and you're practicing sucks. Like let's embrace
Yeah.
it. Like there's like some
Yep.
sort of weird backwards positivity you can get from just
Yeah.
sitting with the negative.
I think that like even acknowledging, like that's one of the things that I always loved about music was, I mean, one of the things that I talk to you guys about all the time is I really a lot of times could give a shit like about what people do. I
Yeah.
love getting to know people for who they are. And
Mhm.
one of the things that I loved about music was being able to bring who I was. And I wish I'd have done it even more in a pure, transparent, authentic, and like empathetic manner. Cause yeah, there was those days like the really shitty days. And that was one thing that I absolutely loved about music, is that you could then have the shitty day with your instrument and you could just when I was struggling to say things with words, that my
Mhm.
instrument could say it. And the weird gibberish that I was singing that I would listen back to later that made no fucking sense. But I could feel, I could smell what the smell of the room was. I remember the lighting, and I remember
Oh,
what it felt like.
wow.
I remember the sweat. It's what, like, I've always written from, like I've shared with these guys, but from like a deeply empathetic place. And so it actually it was hard for me to turn it off, but it was also something that I recognize as a huge gift to me as well in my life, that I was able to experience things that um, not a lot of other people could. Touring was very difficult for me because of the fact that I'd play a song that I had written for somebody from an empathetic place, but I felt like I'd actually gone through it.
Mm.
And I would be wrecked every night. So we'd play that song every night for 3 months straight or something. And every night I was getting wrecked because I felt it immensely. And it's
Yeah,
interesting
and
because
carrying it with you
I
everywhere.
carried it every single night. And so it wasn't fun for me to go through, but at the same time, I wanted that story to be told. And that's one thing that I've always loved. I appreciate even you like being honest about that, because it's something that I've even tell my daughters even now, that it's like, it's weird, but we kind of started growing up in a culture now. And I think it's actually not now, but I think there's a big shift happening where it's like, we were meant to feel the feelings that we have. We were meant to
Mhm.
feel them. So I loved how you said that. Yeah. If you're teaching, you're like, hey, I'm feeling down. Well, you're feeling down. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's not a big
Yeah.
deal. Like
I'm
we
a
don't,
big fan right now on the radio. Like we go through these cyclical things when you're finding all the pop songs every year, and all of a sudden these big piano slow jams become the biggest hits, and I just get
I
so
love
happy in the
that.
car. So I can like cry drive places, and I'm just like, it's a beautiful song and it's sad and it's about
Yeah.
topics. It's not a happy song, and especially the last year, like people coming out with this beautiful new music. But like
Mhm.
just recently, that driver's license one blew up, and that's just like
Yeah.
that piano build where it's so repetitive, it's so beautiful. It's just a fun song that caught fire. There was another one.
Totally.
Oh, the new Taylor Swift, Exile.
Mhm.
Is Pimp
I love
Bonnie
that
there?
"Stay" by Rihanna.
Yep, like they're
That
just
one is really good.
every once in a while a big sad piano jam is just popular.
But that's one of the most beautiful things about just art in general, right?
Mhm.
Is being able to like, and I think that's one of the cool things, which is why I was curious about how you even, I mean, I love hearing your story. So thank you for sharing with it. Cause I think it's
Yeah,
so
of
neat to
course.
hear how it's like, you've got these artists, like my brother-in-law works for like a video game company. And so he actually, even when we were younger, cause I mean, I fell in love with my wife, who's my best friend. She was 15 and I was 17. And her
Aw.
younger brother was this amazing, it was always like locked in his room playing video games. So he introduced me to so many video games, and I would love just sitting in the room with them. And he was so freaking good at everything that I would never get a chance to play anyways.
Don't you
So
just
he was-
hate
You
people
can
like
die
that?
after.
He was one of
Yeah.
those guys.
I gotta die first, and like, does this game even
Yeah.
have lives? I don't.
And I remember,
Next die.
I remember I'd like leave like late at night or something like that. I'd leave and I'd go home, like, cause I was still living at home when I was, obviously I was young. And then I would come back the next day and he'd be going to bed. He's like, finish the game. And I was like, man, you're unbelievable. But I love how art, like you look at art of all these different forms and how it brings people together. Like, and it's one of those things, and it allows you to have emotion, how you share too, even with a video game, like bringing you to tears. And like, that's one thing even now, like, looking at, like The Last of Us too. And like, oh, there's all these amazing things that like people wept, right? And like, there's all these games that are just, they're bringing people to a place. And I think it's absolutely incredible. I mean, I know the first time that our song, we were asked to be a part of like PlayStation 3 and Xbox, like to have our stuff in it. I was like, yes, like it was a huge honor.
That's huge.
And
Yeah,
it
that's
was
amazing.
cool. It was neat too, because it was like, how many times did you dream about having your music like
Somewhere, and it gets to be in
somewhere?
a game.
And then now I was like, wait a minute. Like I remember how many times it took me to get to beat one level, and you hear the song over and over and over. And so I was like, hands down, you can put our stuff in. Like I was so excited about that. But I do love that about music, that they're, whether it be in a video game or whether it's in a movie or whether you're driving down the street or whether you're hanging out with buddies and you have a radio on or whatever it may be, that it has all these different experiences and these different feelings. And I think that's the point that I was getting at, is just like, I think it's cool how you mentioned that aspect of like feeling your feelings, and that you have them for a reason. You don't need to shut them out to be, listen, don't feel that right now, focus on piano. It's like, no, like I like that you said that. That's a huge thing to me, because I think as an artist, even with a group of guys in a studio setting, there was times where I felt like I needed to be happier.
Right.
Because I just be happy, and I am a happy guy, but I'd come in
Sure.
after having a conversation that was hard with somebody, and I come in and be like, oh my goodness, my heart's wrecked. It's like, well, shut it off and be happy now. We need to write a happy song. And it was like, there's times for that too. I'm not saying, that, but anyway.
Yeah. That balance is hard, especially as a working musician, because there are times where you do have to just put your nose down, do the work, do the grind.
Totally.
It's like at the risk of sounding like a hippie, but like, it's all about that balance. You just gotta find the right balance,
Because it's not a
Whatever that
9 to
is.
5 clock in at the music factory. I'm off to go make
It's
notes, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go
Make
home at
notes.
5. I'm gonna make the music at the factory and do my
Yeah.
job and do my thing. It's like, whoa, what do you mean there's no rules? But there's all the rules. Like you said, like you're doing everything you can and nothing at the same time, because it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do next.
Oh yeah.
And that's the true challenge, because it gets hard as soon as you have to do the work, right? It's fun just to jam around. I found, like, when I was a young musician, I didn't want to take lessons in the traditional style, because I didn't want it to become a chore, because I knew I'm lazy.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of would learn on my own, and then I'd learn other songs, but I found I enjoyed writing my own better, just because I didn't have to follow any rules. I was like, okay, well, I can just do whatever I want. And then
Yeah.
It's in 6/8.
and it's in 6/8, and I like this.
Somehow he takes every single time signature and turns it back into
Yeah.
6/8.
Yeah, can you put more sway into that?
Mhm.
I think this 4/4 should be a little more swing.
Yeah, take one beat out of that. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you get requests for stuff and you've never done it before, do you try to consume a bit of it first, or just dive straight into the music?
I try to listen to it first, especially I mean, like, some, like, I'll, like, for example, when people were recommending Demon Slayer songs, like, oh, this is the hot new anime all the kids are talking about.
Yeah.
And then I watched it and went, oh my God, I get it. So like, and then that was really
Yeah.
exciting to like do that.
That's awesome.
Other times it's not every time. I like try to learn a little bit of context, especially kind of like where it plays in the game and for what. But not every time. Like if I know the tune, like everybody knows the ocarina tunes and stuff like that, and I'm pretty familiar with the Final Fantasy music. So if it's stuff I don't know already, I'll do a little bit more work.
Cool.
I think it's great how many free clips you have for people. You don't just you don't have to bring them in right away. Like you've got a lot out there for someone just starting, just to learn and not get any kind of.
There's, I mean, we live in a capitalistic society. So I understand the need for the grind. I understand the need to make that money. Right? We just do. But at the same time, I have like a foot in the camp of like, once something is out there, it's no longer yours. Not that I'm like teaching original stuff, but like I like you should put some stuff out for free just cause, like throw somebody a bone every now and then, like inspire somebody. And sometimes it's not going to land, and some people will definitely take advantage of it. But that's fine. Like, just put free stuff out there. Sometimes it's totally worth it.
Well, it's definitely something that from the marketing world, I'm a partner in a marketing agency, and it's one of the things that I'll talk to clients about all the time is don't be afraid to actually give things away with a good, just genuine heart.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a lot of people get worried because of the fact that they're like, well, why would I give my trade secrets away for free or this and that? I'm like, well, actually, the interesting thing is that you end up becoming so valuable to them that they will come back to you when there is an opportunity to pay you. So I always say, like, there's a word I always throw around with reciprocity. And it's like, and I'll say, like, there was a prime example. There was somebody that I followed that they started their YouTube channel, and they built, just for years and years and years, they just built up giving away free content. And it was amazing. They did a great job at it and built this crazy following. And then all of a sudden they decided it was time to, like, they're going to release like a book, and it just sold millions. But forever, like, they've been giving away all this content for free. So when it was time, and it's interesting because the reason why this story kind of pops out to me is that actually that's what it was. I read an article on it, and they were saying that a lot of the people that they had given away things for free, they became the number one source for people that were going to that. So they knew they could go there. And then when it was time, they released a book, they felt some of the, like a large chunk of their audience felt, oh no, I owe them because they've given me this stuff for so long. I owe it to them. So they actually wanted to support the person. And yet those people just did it out of the kindness of their heart because they loved it.
It's the free breadsticks of life.
And,
you just give someone the breadsticks. You come back for the bread.
Yeah.
If the food's good or not good, they'll come back. They'll get more bread.
There is
delicious.
a lot. It's still interesting how many people are really nervous to give things away because they feel like, well, if I give it away, they're never going to come back. And I really respect what you're doing, because I think I've always preached it to all of our clients and to people is that, just out of the kindness of your heart, just give, and trust me, it'll come back. And a lot of times it comes back tenfold.
Yeah.
Totally.
And I totally felt that at the beginning of Smart Game Piano. That's been a weakness of mine, doing Smart Game Piano, getting into marketing and sales and that. Cause like as a musician, I felt like a traitor, like kind of learning all that stuff, like it just feels slimy at first, but it took me a while and some great encouragement from coworkers that was like, if you really believe in your product and if you really do think what you're doing is helping people, then you should feel no shame in being like, hey, no, this is good. You can use this. I promise it's worth it. And yeah, it's not even necessary evil. I can't think of a word for it. It's super, everybody should learn some marketing skills. Like they just should.
Well, it's interesting because you use the word shame, but you should never feel that. Like getting to
being
know
proud of who you are and your talents.
Yeah.
And it's just
and getting to know you already. I mean, even from the moment we started talking, it's like you just see that you are a genuine person. And,
Oh, thank you.
And having that transparent, authentic heart, which is something that these guys will get, much like the people that like work for me, it's like they hate hearing me say it, but I'm constantly preaching transparency, empathy.
We'll get ours eventually.
We'll get the Matt soundboard.
Yeah, I know. But the thing is, the great thing is that when you are like, again, focusing on who you are, which is a great human being, that in itself is the marketing right there.
100%.
And you don't have to be because back in the day, it was that slimy sell.
Yeah.
Ultimately, to me, it's just, which is why I'm always hugely like trying to push as much as possible is to focus on who you are versus what you do.
Yeah.
And I love that too. You even said too, you're like, yeah, I really love, and you talked about her, what you loved.
Because we were saying
that was the first thing you talked about, not about the piano. You actually talked about her,
yeah,
which is a cool thing. So right off the top, you're doing stuff right. A lot,
Oh,
really doing stuff right.
the beginning of the internet when we all weren't supposed to use our real names. We all just we were the first email out. Don't tell anyone who you are, what's going on, like the world, the internet. But now it's like it's just you. Do you find like that's an odd? Do you meet people out who like recognize you at all?
It's happened
randomly?
Only once, and it was at a video game music convention, so I feel like it didn't count. I actually
and it was family.
You're right. It was my grandma.
She had a wicked cosplay. It was crazy.
Right. Oh, she looks so good. But so my friend Cara Comparetto, she's a
the other
pianist.
pianist. Yeah, you guys did that practice video.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's a huge source of inspiration for me. She's just a super kind and also genuine person. She was really funny. A couple weeks ago, she called me out. She's like, "Hey, I didn't see you post on Instagram, and I know you're a super private person. Just making sure you're okay." And I'm like, "You precious baby bunny, I'm fine." But like, I don't like to put like too much of my private stuff out there. Like, obviously, I put my tragedy up there when it happened, but like, I tend to be like, I don't know. it's like I've gotten better at like kind of taking selfies and be like, hey guys, today we're doing this, and you know, but I'm not showing like, and I had yogurt for breakfast because that has probiotics and you're gonna get smarter. Like
Bought a pack of
that's
6. This is number
yeah.
5.
Right. But like I don't know, it's hard to put yourself out there because you can kind of choose what you put out there. And I feel very flattered that you feel like I'm genuine, authentic, because I am careful about what I put out there. Especially with like, you know, my grief and my own mental wellness. That's a Freudian slip right there.
That's a good mental health.
Wait, let's slow that back a bit. Mental
Right.
wellness.
That's good for
Right.
Halloween.
Well,
yeah.
I think sometimes people though do get a little bit worried that, like, even for myself, like I have had people say like they're fearful when I share, like, you know, to be transparent and authentic.
Totally.
And empathetic. They're
Yeah.
very, very fearful because
You're
their mind-
vulnerable.
Yes, very.
Right. So the
Yeah.
thing is though, is, I mean, even asking you mentioned that you shared some things in your life that were pretty hard things.
Mhm.
Most people don't start there with
Yeah.
sharing things about that. And so I think actually in my mind, you know, there's things that you can practice as well that I've found too. And it's like, one of them is like masking. And I think we all do that. And then people think, you know, when I remember the first time I ever heard about it, I was like, well, what does that mean? Like wearing a mask and now you're not. I remember my exact words were, oh, great. Now you fucking don't want me to be myself.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. Like when you meet somebody for the first time, it's like they use the analogy of, say, taping off something that you're going to paint. They're like, you'll mask off the areas you don't want to get paint, but you'll allow people, you'll paint the areas that you want. So when you're meeting somebody, you'll mask off. So you're being 100% you. You're being transparent, empathetic,
Mhm.
authentic. You're being you, but you're just allowing them to see the areas because you're getting to know them that you want. And as the
Yeah.
relationship grows, then you choose whether or not you peel back a bit of that like tape. And I was like, that's a really great analogy. So
That
when I
is.
share
Yeah.
with people, I always say, like, because people are always fearful, like, well, I'm not going to share. It's like, but every day, it's funny. A client just told me, like, I have no stories to share on their social media. I was like, every day you've got a story to share.
Yeah, that's
But
bull honky. There's
it-
something.
there's
There's
every day.
something
but,
happened.
But when
Yeah.
you get to know your community as well, then you also realize too that, yeah, maybe your community could give two shits about like probiotic yogurt, but
Yeah.
maybe when you are walking, you're like, man, I'm just like, I like smelling nature and this and that, then it's relevant to them because to them,
Mhm.
and that's actually, I wanted to kind of ask you, like, it's so cool that you have a community from all over the world.
Mhm.
That's absolutely unbelievable from a marketing perspective. That's like, oh my goodness. So I was going to ask, like, what is it like do you have to, oh man, like it's like, even here, like in Canada, it's funny because like you can't even carry some products unless they have French on them, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like, so what is it
Okay.
like for you with having, like, even just because we are all so different and unique around the world, which I think is absolutely amazing and makes your community so much stronger. But what, do
It's
you have to change anything or do anything, or is it, yeah, kind of neat.
it's humbling, and like I have to recognize like, oh, I just fell into the default of my first language being English. Like
Yep.
you're lucky that you don't have to be learning this.
Yeah.
It made me realize that, like, you know, the world is becoming more global. And I feel like that's a big weakness of mine still, because most of my members of my community tend to be male. They tend to be in their 20s and their 30s. Like it's like half and half, like family people and like single guys. And there's a few women scattered here and there, and they're just like, I always freak out, like, oh, the unicorns, they're here.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
my goodness. But for me, I've kind of noticed that while a lot of demeanors are different, a lot of cultural expectations, the one thing that ties them all is video game music. So like that like is just
So
like
cool.
my go-to. Like we can
Yep.
like, it doesn't
So
matter
cool.
who that person is, we geek out about that, like we've been doing tonight, and like
That's
that
so cool.
and
Yeah.
that foundation is there. And I definitely have a lot to learn when it comes to, you know, not just marketing, but teaching people of these different backgrounds. But like the fact that we have that nerdy foundation is super, super helpful.
Yeah, built from that.
That is, yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh
And
my
you've got a
gosh.
great community, like seeing people.
Oh my
post
gosh, it's
videos,
not
like,
toxic. I don't know how that happened.
right. Yeah, everyone's like,
It's a
And-
self-filtered system. People are like, I wouldn't
Yeah.
fit in
and
there.
I like
so-
the
finger wiggle.
finger wink. And you know what's funny? So me and Josh, we used to work together at Olive Garden, and our general manager,
Have you done like
we-
every job
I-
together?
yes,
Like
we
yeah,
I-
we did.
We've been friends for a few years, couple bands.
We're connected. So,
love it.
but the general manager, we didn't like her very much, but she'd be like the classic, like, got time to lean, got time to clean. And then she did this thing though. She'd be like, wink and do the finger.
Like both,
Nice.
But you're bringing it back to being a good thing again, and I appreciate that.
because that was
Good.
not
Like,
a good memory.
How
Good.
belittling this, she would, Sorry, what was the slogan?
Oh, you
Got
don't
time
know
to
though?
lean, got time to clean.
If you
Did
have time to talk, you have
I
time to
can't
stalk.
even-
None of those.
You can't get me started on
Yeah.
that stuff. That stuff annoys
Oh,
the
yeah.
shit out of me. Oh my goodness.
She got mad at me for eating dead food one time
Sorry,
because
what,
she wanted to eat it.
dude, all food's dead. So what are you talking
Dead
about?
food.
Like a
It's-
we made too many pastas. There's an extra pasta in the window, and no
That's
one's
called
touched
dead
it.
food?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you
Oh.
get to throw it out. Because legally, you don't want your people eating food that no one paid for. So you have to put it in the garbage so all the people don't eat. But
Hmm.
you know, you're gonna get mad at me for eating garbage, like technical
Yeah.
garbage. So it was he waited for it to be like so dead that no one would care, and then his boss was.
Turns out she was waiting for that same thing. And then she came in, she's like, "You." I was like, "Oh, chicken and shrimp limon, busted."
she knew the game. She knew
If this
what's
She
up.
knew the
previous
game.
manager happens to listen to this podcast, we probably understand you were just misunderstood.
Yeah, Monique.
Yeah, girl. It's
Yeah,
all good.
totally.
Yeah.
He was eyeing it. That's the thing.
She tells the
was-
story to this day of this one guy who ate
Yeah,
her
there it
pasta.
is.
Bastard ate my
Crazy.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. That like definitely seeing how many people from different areas and like obviously there's so much passion and like
Mhm.
people showing off their skills because it's kind of a fun thing to do. You feel like that pride and oh, I've got, now I can play this, and then you get to show it
Yeah.
off a little bit, and then you have everybody else kind of like, oh, good job, and there's that camaraderie I find, which
Totally.
is awesome.
Totally. Yeah, I encourage people like chase that dopamine high. Like
Yes.
that's a great natural high. Get it. Like
It is.
it's that's what's going to keep you motivated. Like and some people, I know not everybody gets something out of it, but I think some people when they get the mechanics of like how their mind actually works, that gets them excited. One big thing that I've been saying recently is that like motivation is not internal, like it's external. Like same thing with your energy and the calories you burn. Like you have to consume food, you have to eat in order to get your energy, right? And that's not something a wellspring inside of you. You have to feed it. Motivation's the same way. There's this horrible mindset. There's like, if you really love it, you'll always be passionate, you'll always be motivated, and
Yeah.
you'll never be burnt out. And that's just not how it
How
works.
it works. It's not life.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. You're talking about that in your last solo live stream. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Got that from a therapist friend of mine. Yeah, my two closest friends are both therapists. So if I say anything that sounds really wise, I stole it from them.
That's awesome.
I remember it was like anytime learning, because I always was self-taught. Like I was the guy that snuck into my like dad's room when I was a little kid and found the guitar in the closet, and then would go to shows because all my buddies were all older and touring, and I would write down where their hands are. I had no clue what they were doing, and I would like learn from that. And I remember, things would get challenging, and it was like, and it wasn't fun. Like to learn things wasn't always fun. But I remember somebody telling me once, it was like, and I think it was my father-in-law actually told me, he was like, set like small attainable goals every day. And it can be that simple, tiny thing that like, and it's odd, but like years later, then he like sent me another article about how like, that's actually why the army started getting guys just to make their bed. It was literally so that they felt they accomplished
Cool.
something. So when you woke up, you accomplished something. So at the end of the night, say you came back, you're like, oh yeah, right, I already did that. Like there was one thing that you did at least that you accomplished that was a small goal. And I realized in my life, like especially with music, it was, sometimes like again, you talked about your fingers hurting on guitar and stuff, and it's funny because whenever I play on cheap guitars, I'm like, ugh, and it hurts.
I was the,
But I play every day, but I'll play on like a good guitar and I can play forever. But it's interesting when I try to actually go, the part of my brain that's like, this isn't fun, wants to go to just what's fun.
I was on the most stubborn kid. Like I learned stuff out of spite, and someone's like, "You can't do that." Look, I'm going to learn that even harder now. That's how I stuck through. Like learning bagpipes was a really interesting instrument because like you go through a phase where no matter how, like you're not going to sound very good for a little bit, but then once you figure it out, it's the best thing ever. But at first, every single person learning that instrument starts on. It's called the practice chanter. It's like a little version of it where you just learn how to do the fingering because the real holes are way bigger. We're talking about like your hands. Like as a piano player, you think you go, "Oh, I can do this." So like you learn the recorder, and it was cool, but it's you don't have direct control over the reed, so you have to do all the notes as little like blippities, little grace notes, and that's how you make separate notes on the bagpipe. And then you learn how to actually pump up the bag and breathe it, which is a totally different thing than playing just the notes.
That sounds really difficult.
And then you have to but you got to tune it by ear. And then like once it all comes together though, in those years of like when I was a really proud, like I'm very out of practice, so it's embarrassing. I'm at that stage now where like I just got to go sound bad again for like a little bit. And then I know I'm going to sound great, but I'm just so embarrassed to be like, you can't just casually practice your bagpipe anywhere. People are going to hear you.
What did you say the radius of hearing it is? It's got like a 7-mile radius.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Like My parents,
That's
I was like,
unreal.
I was 10 or 12, and my first super proud moment of like, I'm gonna go out on the porch and play my bagpipe. And I was just like, I was doing it, and my parents were like, they heard it from miles away. And
I
we
was
came
his
home.
neighbor
Love
too,
that.
and I'd hear that. I'd hear that.
Turns out
Like,
though,
so
people
funny.
loved watching me, or like over the years, they're like, they'd call their grandma and be like, hold up the phone and be like, he's practicing again.
That's
And it
awesome.
was like a really
Aw.
fun, like, so I
That's
think
cute. I
Yeah.
like that.
It's awesome.
But like spite is a great motivator.
it
Like,
is. It's my best.
That's
Like,
yeah.
oh, you tell me I can't, I'll practice so much harder
Oh,
now. And then it's
gosh.
like, I just practice so much.
That's what
That-
Braden was saying. Our last guest, engineer producer, he was like, "That's what's
Uh-huh.
driving him right now too." Spite.
Totally. Yeah.
These
Yeah.
spite-driven
You know, it's interesting when
musicians.
he said that. I googled the word spite because I felt like I knew what it meant, and I was like, oh, it's kind of a bit of a negative, but because of the fact that like, yeah, like there's certain people that when you say like you can't do it, they're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then there's
I get you.
others that it motivates.
It's
I
not,
would-
that's me. I'm telling myself, I have to tell myself that.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't do, like when you're feeling self-defeating about whatever you're trying to do when it's gets those hard points, because it's like you said, it's those practice hours you're putting in, even if it
Mhm.
is just like 10 minutes a day. Like,
Well,
that's all you did.
Yeah.
Sydney says at least 15 minutes. Like, just get 15 minutes on there, right? Like every day.
15 minutes is good. That's like, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I say 15 minutes because that's something where you can have an attainable goal.
Yeah.
Like 10 minutes, sure, but that to me is like warm up time. Like that's just when your brain's starting to get warm. Like if
Yeah.
you get it warm in 10 minutes and then 5 minutes of something intense, great, you did it. You can shut it off. Like you're done. You're good.
Yeah.
Do you before you play piano, do you do any warm-ups?
I
Say
took
no,
a
say
break.
no, just say no.
Yes, I do. I took kind of like a break
Another
from
for that
warm-ups.
warm-ups.
However,
that.
my warm-ups aren't always the same. Like sometimes I'll do
Yes.
scales, and sometimes it'll just be a song that I know really well and have it memorized and just literally warm up that way. It won't be like a super technical song or something really demanding, but just like I'm just gonna jam for a bit. Even just jamming and improvising, that's a good warm-up. Like whatever basically just gets the ball rolling. It really doesn't matter. Because you can even save like the technical practice arpeggio scales for last. Like, and that's what I like about those. Like they could be warm-ups or they could be an intense practice. Like a warm-up just gets you hot, you know,
Mhm.
whatever
Yeah.
that is.
Warms you up.
Can you please say yes to this question? When
Maybe.
do you ever play and you're just going to town having a great time playing and go, oh shit, I don't even know where I am right now? Yes.
It's yes.
Yes, I don't feel so bad.
It's been a hot minute and I'm kind of jealous that people who experience it a lot, just because mostly what I'm actually, I think I said this before to a friend of mine, like I really feel like teacher and business person right now and not really musician artist right now. Because I did a performance for VGM together in March and I just realized how out of practice I was just playing for people and it just made me not feel like an artist. So at some point in that performance, I did lose myself, and that was great, and that was awesome. But I don't feel it as often with all the recording and arranging I do, and I miss it. Like I
Yeah.
miss it a lot. It's very zen.
Yeah, it's a very particular state of mind that you
Yeah.
I'm
can't
feeling that way
always get
lately.
into until you like I would need an audience and they'd be like, oh, it's go time. Like, oh, you're performing now, and you have to have that switch of
Yeah.
like, all this practice is gonna just be autopilot. I'm just gonna do this, and I can trust myself that I know what I'm gonna do, and it's gonna sound great.
I feel right now like I've been battling with missing writing and doing more music side because I've been doing more studio stuff and the podcast
Yeah.
and video editing and stuff like that. So I've been doing so much of that lately I'm getting that bug where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind just doing some writing again, but you just got to kind of chip through it and get back to it.
I wonder if that's just the plight of like the artist in general. When you're doing one thing, like you just
Yeah.
miss the other thing. You know?
Yeah, that grass
Well,
is
you-
always greener.
Well, yeah, and you do
Yeah.
forget too that like even now you mentioned you're like, I don't feel like the artist. Like actually you are. That's the great thing about it is it's like
That's nice
know,
to hear.
no, it is. It's true because I've thought of like we've talked about this too about our lives and just like looking at the path that they've taken and like I never expected my path as a musician to lead me in the way that it did, but it went here and then here and then here and then here and then here and it just went in all these different ways, and it's actually been quite exciting to see because there was times too like I remember teaching guitar and I never thought in my life that I ever would because I again was like I'm not teaching guitar. That's like I'm not gonna do it.
That's
And then-
not
Yeah.
a rock star job.
Yeah, not at all. And then turns out like the first student that like, you know, asks me to teach them is like this like crazy scientist kid that like wants to learn by math. And I'm like, what? And it made me better. Like it actually was like, oh
Yeah.
my goodness. And I, to this day, I'm super thankful that I did that because it actually took me to a place where I had never
You
never
gotta-
even thought about going as a musician because he would not learn the way that I played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I can't teach you the way that I am. I actually, which is why I was curious about even with all these people from around the world, because I know culturally too, there are a lot of differences in the way that,
Mhm.
you know, we communicate, that we talk, that we listen, the way that, you know, there's so many things. And it's a great thing, but like the fact that it's just you with this mass audience is phenomenal. Like I think it's just absolutely so cool. So for you to say you don't feel like a musician, that's fine. You cannot feel like one, but holy crap, you are definitely one. So
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
like really, really cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
no, it's-
I'm glad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we said earlier, like it doesn't matter sometimes how you feel, like you are still doing stuff. So
Yeah.
totally.
gotta remember that.
When you said the grass is greener on the other side, I think I told you the story. I didn't know what that expression meant. We had to write an essay on it.
Oh,
I
yeah,
thought it
you
was
did tell me this.
the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence meant you had to get over the fence and the grass would be greener because of your hardship. Like you got over
Oh
that
my
fence.
God.
And
Right?
that's what I thought. And I wrote this really good story about it. And I got the worst marks. And I was like, what do you mean that's not what it's about?
You know what? That's interesting because it just makes me feel like whoever gave you the worst mark really
Screwed
did
up.
not think of it. And like
Well,
I would have
just
been
felt
like, that is
oh,
phenomenal.
you idiot. You didn't know what that meant. I'm like, no, I
Maybe
didn't.
you did.
And
Maybe
I was
we've
like,
been wrong the whole time.
no,
Right.
I was wrong. I know this now.
I don't know.
But I was like, I remember that, like, yeah, you have to just get over that hump, and oh man, everything's gonna be so much better because you climbed a fence.
Mhm.
That's hilarious.
But I can't
Oh,
help
so
not
the
think
whole
of-
thing to you was about the fence?
Well,
I'm
you get
just
over the
kidding.
fence. It's pokey.
That's
I'm not
awesome.
athletic, so it's a lot of work for me to get over a fence.
That's the true
Chain
challenge.
link, your shoes don't fit. All the kids are climbing the fence. You don't want to fit in. You're like, I'm gonna go around.
That's
I'm gonna get stuck. I'm not gonna do it. Just don't want to do it.
Speaking of climbing the fence, your subscribers on YouTube, you're getting up there now. That's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
I think we're at 68,000,
Yeah.
something like that. It's always been a slow, steady climb, and I think that's just because it's just tutorials. So like I'm not doing like the typical chasing the views kind of thing as a YouTuber. I'm kind of starting to do that now. So hopefully it's
The
actually kind
funny
of fun.
stuff is great. I love the
Yeah,
funny
big
stuff.
fans.
I'm glad. Again, I sure do think I'm funny. So I'm gonna keep doing that.
Yeah, you make me laugh when you do your live streams. Like I like because I always wonder when you're waiting for questions, right? Like that's the hardest time, right? You're just like,
It's
okay,
awkward, yeah.
question, but then you're like la, da, 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 like you play with it, which is awesome. I do that when I'm on like conference calls. Like,
Yeah.
da, 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 da,
Just
da,
keep slowly turning up your mic little by
Right,
little.
yeah.
Just I'm getting closer.
yeah.
Dun, 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 dun,
No,
dun,
but that's great. And for me, that's what I was saying to you. It's kind of funny because I felt like when you watch somebody for so long, I felt like I knew you already, right? So I was like, it's
Yeah.
gonna be for me, it's gonna be like I'm already kind of know you, but this will be our first time talking. So it's kind of interesting when you see, yeah, like how you can actually grow, close to someone and get like a trust and yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. I'm really glad. I try to be cognizant of like that parasocial relationship on the internet. That someone who watches and listens to me, like is seeking something valuable. So I try to provide value. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad that's been the case.
How do you make a no one yet feel like a someone, but you did it. So that's good.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like I know.
I'm glad I didn't have to
still.
answer that question. I was like doing the
No.
math in my head. I was like,
No,
wait.
I mean like that's what you're doing. Like somebody who's nobody to you right now,
No,
right?
don't
How
do
do you
more.
make them feel
Just
special?
don't be a dick.
There
Just
you
be
go.
nice. Like
Yeah.
life is fucking hard enough as
Yeah.
it is. Like,
Right?
You know what?
damn.
I'm gonna be a dick about it just because.
Out of
Please,
spite.
Out of spite.
All right. How are
No,
my
you can't
shitheads
tell
doing
me
today?
how to do it.
Oh man.
All
In
right,
another-
listen up,
yeah.
maggots. You're
in
gonna practice.
another
Yeah.
life, Smart Game Piano would have gone that direction.
Really
Yeah.
All
dark.
right,
Really,
fuckers.
really dark.
Today we're
Yeah.
gonna learn Air's theme.
Yeah.
And just every
You
once
should
in a
just do a
while,
version
you
of
just
that, but you should just bleep it out the whole time. So it'd be hilarious because it's like
That would be a
It-
great
yeah.
video.
it's your pissed off version where it's
Yeah.
like you beep beep beep. It's just beeping through,
That
and then
would
you
be
turn your
awesome.
beeps into a song.
well, that
Yeah.
sounded okay.
Totally.
You got to try again though. You know,
Yeah.
it's like really
We'll call it.
There was
Mad-
times I remember that
Mad
when I was
Game
like, in-
Piano.
mad game piano.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there was times when I was teaching that
it's
I
better
remember
than
there was
sad game
I
piano.
was swearing in my
Oh.
head. You ever do that when you would teach? You're just like, fucking, you gotta be like, I've taught you
Yeah.
this. This is the 4th week of teaching the same thing.
Let's just.
And I remember just being like, what am I? I'm a terrible teacher.
Oh, no.
Well, it was. It's like if you haven't got it by now, like, yeah, I knew they weren't practicing, but it feel like after a while, like I felt like a bit of a failure as a teacher because I'm like, if you haven't learned it after 4 weeks of teaching, you clearly. Then I realized a lot of people were hiring me literally to have a 1-hour performance in their home, and I caught on to that really quick.
No way.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
You gotta- Got to start tacking on a performance fee for that.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, you're getting a
Ah.
little cheaper performance fee here.
That's funny.
Why don't you just play a few of your songs just to warm up? I'm like, I don't need to.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I had those.
That's pretty smart. That's pretty smart, actually.
Yeah,
With
it's
the people
clever of them.
hiring you.
Let me get on my
Yeah.
guitar. I need to get it's wood sensitive in this environment. It just needs to sit for maybe 5-10. Yours looks
Smart.
pretty warm though. Seems like the
Smart.
strings. Ooh,
Yeah,
ow, my
you might as
fingers.
well.
Might as well.
That's great.
hilarious. Well, there's all kinds of ways to get around it, I guess. That's
Mhm.
funny.
Oh, we were saying with the Steinwave, one of these days we wanted to see if you were interested in doing something like this again, but you could play your piano there. We
Yeah.
can see it happen here. As
I
live.
do want to touch it someday. I've got my passport in the mail somewhere. I like when Americans are allowed to go places, I'm gonna go all the places.
Oh
I
yeah,
wanna
well
see
you
guys
got
touch
to
your
come here
piano.
for sure.
Yeah.
Play on that Steinway.
Yeah.
Also, one thing we're thinking about experimenting with. So, like technically, you can get a program like it's called VSD Connect on your end,
Okay.
right? It's just a free app,
Sure.
and you set like your interface and you tell it your MIDI, your
so
piano,
you stay in your room.
and you stay home basically, and then you send us the MIDI. Now you won't want to listen to what's coming back from us because it'll be delayed, but we'll hear you
Right.
play live. So basically, you just play to whatever, and we'd be sitting there listening to you playing live.
That's
From where you
cool.
are.
Yeah, and we could film like get you to film your
That's
side.
crazy. That
We'll
is so
film our
cool.
side,
Yeah,
and then I can
because
put it together after as like a
we-
video.
They nerded
That would
it
actually be
together.
really fun. Like,
Really
yeah,
fun.
if-
It's going to be a
yeah,
little bit of
I would-
sciencey to figure it out how we're going to make it exactly work, but this was
I
our
would
first.
love to be your guinea pig.
Okay, well
There we
you're
go.
in. This is
Yeah.
it.
You were our
Boom.
first distance guest guinea pig too, so we're like, okay, if this works,
That is so cool.
yeah, I'm excited for it because it's just such an interesting technology that now
Oh,
we
yeah.
we
kidding.
have the technology to do it, and you shouldn't have, like, in theory it shouldn't exist. Like no one should
Yeah.
have put a MIDI controller into this beautiful.
Well, the hardest part was
Beast, but-
conjuring the spirit into the piano. and
Exactly.
Mhm.
Gonna be
keeping it
ghost.
there. It's more maintaining the spirit.
What kind of blood did you use?
Goats? Goats is the go-to.
Your
The
go-to
goat-to.
goats
Uh-huh.
too.
They're not telling the truth. Behind the studio, they've got a whole unicorn factory of like they've got all these beautiful unicorns.
knew
You're not
it.
supposed to say
Yeah,
that,
it's all
though.
sprinkles and unicorns. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's glitter. We stand up,
There's
glitter, everywhere. Damn it!
everywhere.
It's all
That's a really
making
cool
sense
filter
now.
you guys put on all your videos. Of
Real
falling
Kamoa is
glitter.
covered always.
It's like I love that Skittles
Uh.
commercial, like where the guy's like everything he touches turns to Skittles. Have you seen that? He's like sitting at the desk. He's like picks up the phone, or phone answers. He grabs it, turns to Skittles. Like, no, damn it! Smashes the desk. Skittles. The guy's like, that's awesome. He's like, is it? How would you like to not be able to hold your newborn son?
Oh my god.
Yeah, really,
Yeah.
yeah.
That went really dark, really
Yeah.
quick.
I was like, that is the best commercial ever. I think it was a Super Bowl one.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And actually, so that's a great thing to segment into. We've got the medley for your Zelda medley. We put
Zelda
together.
medley. Yeah. Yeah.
So as
I'm
far
excited.
as for our audio listeners, they're going to get to hear the medley just all put together, recorded on the Steinway.
Yeah. I'm
And for our
excited.
YouTube listeners, when this comes out,
Viewers,
watchers,
they
viewers,
can view it.
they can view it on the actual Steinway piano.
Mhm.
So we're going to play it in 3, 2,
Wait, are you going to play it on 1?
1.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll play it on
Play it on
0.
Okay, 10.
3, 10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, that's amazing. So sorry to bring it back, but I have a bagpiper face when you play. Can't see it with the mask, but like this old man once told me if you play with your cheeks too much, they're gonna droop when you're older. So you gotta get your power out of your neck. So I have like the frog neck thing. But yeah, when you start looking at like pictures of yourself performing, yeah, when you
Yeah, like
Wait,
yeah, you
so
can.
are you telling me you'd rather have a frog neck than jowls?
Yeah, well,
Right.
I
yeah,
love that you
I
said
picked frog neck.
jowls. That's
It was
adorable.
frog. It was frog neck
That's what
over
our dog
jowls.
had.
Yeah, I chose frog neck over jowls.
How do you
That's
get
the.
that one?
I get it.
How do
Yeah.
you breathe in your neck?
No, like, well, you can't see because the
it
mask
looked
and the
like a
beard. But
frog neck. Like a,
here,
ribbit.
can you guys see it? Like,
That's disgusting.
thank you. It's a skill. You need to
I
store a
can't
bunch of
look
air somewhere.
away.
That's why he
Yeah.
has his beard.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, it hides it.
I had it as a child. It's been with me for a long. It's actually.
It's pretty funny, like how many people don't recognize Josh anymore with his beard. Like he started
fun.
growing it when he had
When
his son.
Jaden was born. Yeah,
And how old's Jaden now?
he's turning 7 at the end of May.
So it's been a long time.
Nice.
And like there's someone like the people will be in the studio talking to us, and then like 15 minutes in, she'll be like, "Holy shit, that's Josh! I just realized that's you."
It's a superpower, and I love it.
He knocked at my front door and I asked Annie, I'm like, "Who is it?" She's like, "I don't know, some lady."
I've
Some bearded woman.
Some lady.
The
Yeah.
circus is in
She just
town.
saw the long red hair.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
gotcha.
one of those they shut down all the barbers, and I was like, okay, then fine, challenge accepted. And like they're open again. I'm like,
It's
no,
another one of
I'm
those
growing
spite-
out all my hair.
He's all
Spite.
about spite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just thinking
Yeah.
it's coming back.
All
I
right,
love it.
COVID.
Yeah, we've learned a lot about spite
Mm-hmm.
today. That's the theme of the episode. Oh, okay. So favorite Zelda game.
Twilight Princess.
Twilight
Ooh, all right.
Princess.
Yeah.
Why?
I love how dark it is. It was a fun twist from a lot of what different motifs would do. Like there was
Okay.
still that classic Zelda sound, but it had a lot of like I think one of my favorite tracks from that is like the Zant battle theme when like you get all the musical themes from all the bosses
Yeah.
into this one. I love medleys. I love
Recurring themes and
Yeah.
medleys
They're-
are beautiful in that. Yeah.
they're fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Breath of the Wild is probably a close second. It's like a really close second, but Twilight Princess just has like, and it's probably nostalgia influencing that
100%.
decision. Yeah, but like I love it. It's my favorite.
Tyler, what's yours?
Jeez, like Link to the Past is so darn good.
Mhm,
But and then 64's got the nostalgia.
mhm.
But I feel like Breath of the Wild was the first game I played in a long time that gave me that like I can do anything. Like I
that
couldn't.
childlike wonder.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
do the main story. I get to the top of a tower and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to go here. But then I look to the left, I'm like, I could probably parachute all the way over there.
Right.
So
What are you
here I
hiding
go.
from me, game?
Yeah,
And
what are you trying to hide from me?
And then I didn't do the first couple battle tutorials. And then I was like, oh, I should have gone to the first town. Well, no. But I was like, I enjoyed that journey of like
Yeah.
doing what you're not supposed to do and how.
Is that your favorite one?
It's the most recent one. It would be tough because that Link to the Past as a formative childhood memory. We played it in Ontario, so this is the equivalent. I'm not sure how up to date you are in your Canadian geography. We sent you a research package. Hopefully, you studied.
She's very up to date.
It's north of America, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
we're like north of Seattle,
Ish.
and Ontario is like north of New York.
Yeah.
So
That's
we're
where
going
the
that.
French ones are.
Yeah.
They're below the French
Yeah.
ones. There's a mix. They're everywhere. And it was like that summertime going to go visit. This is like my Scottish side of the family. So my Scottish grandma was a big influence on like the childhood
Plains
summer
and
formative, like I said,
pipes.
those fever dream memories that you're like.
Yeah.
So they had Link to the Past, and I never played it. And I remember beating the game as a kid in a couple days, and my cousin was so impressed that I was like, "Oh, I've never played this before." And that's all I did the whole trip. And it was
Matt, how about you? Did you play any of the Zelda games?
The only game I remember is Legend of Zelda.
The
and
original?
The original. And I
Nice.
remember, again, every single time. I mean, I absolutely loved it. My favorite was actually always playing. Like I loved, back in the day, obviously doing like Contra and all that kind of stuff, like those fun games and stuff like that, just because it was so different. I hadn't really ever experienced anything like that. It was cool. But when I got to Zelda, I remember being like, no, you guys go ahead. And it was the worst thing you could ever say. Because that was it. And like 3-4 hours later, it's like still not my turn.
No
and
way.
everybody else is playing. But I will say that it was a fun one to watch again.
Yeah.
It was just, again, because I think it was my first introduction to storytelling
Mhm.
to games.
in
It
the
was-
medium.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that was something that I did enjoy of that, was the aspect of being, again, like I said, to me, it conjures up as soon as you guys start talking about it. I mean, you talk about a memory of like all the people around, and it conjures up memories of me
The
back
smells of the place, and
hanging
the,
out with
yeah.
friends and like
Yeah.
being there and like ordering pizza and sitting down and like watching and like all like just sitting back and just chilling and being okay with a group of like 8 of us watching one dude play for 3 hours. Like
Mhm.
there's not a lot of things that you can
That's
do
true.
where that was actually, it is a cool thing.
Dave, what's yours?
Oh, okay. Well, I have to like by default go Link to the Past because I actually play that game
Still.
once a year. Like that's
It's your
that's my
go-to.
go-to game. Like that between that and Super Metroid and Super Mario like World, those 3 games I replay them on repeat and don't tell my wife how much I play them. Like, oh yeah,
I'm in the bathroom, honey.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna go cut
With
the
a
lawn.
TV
You go
again?
hide.
No, you were cutting the lawn in the game with the sword. You're just like, I was trimming, doing a lot of garden work.
But I'm gonna go.
Smashing
I'm gonna
pots.
go swing out there and, to be completely honest, like against the grain, and everybody would hate me for saying it. Wind
I knew
Waker.
it.
Wind
feel-
Waker's a
don't
good
be ashamed of
one.
Wind
Wakers, yeah, there's
Waker.
nothing
No,
wrong with
no,
that.
Yeah.
but so many people hate on that game, and
I mean, Tingle's
they-
not my favorite.
They hated it like as it came out. They hated everything
At the
about it.
time.
But yeah, but
Aged
yeah,
beautifully.
no,
Yeah.
it
Sure
did.
did.
It did age good. But like even when it first came out, that game gave me like the tingles because like tingles.
How old were you, sorry?
Oh, God.
But like
It was a time of discovery.
Her response was awesome.
my experience was clearly different.
Yes.
but the like
This is all
Twilight
getting cut.
Princess I love,
Yeah.
but Twilight Princess felt like a retread of Ocarina of Time to me a little bit. It was a
But
better.
I mean, it literally is
better.
using the same engine as Wind Waker, like
Yep.
Twilight Princess is.
yeah, but like
Yeah.
Twilight Princess felt like Ocarina of Time versus Wind Waker felt like this whole different
That's fair.
kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked it for that reason, and even though it was different, but yeah,
It was super cool in Nintendo 64 when they added the music into it and let you actually play the ocarina and have to
Yeah.
like, do the melody.
I love
Like that was kind of cool as a kid to be like, oh, it's like and you
Prominent.
can make your own songs on
Having
there,
music
right?
be prominent. I think there was a whole I played a couple Game Boy games. I think they're done by Capcom, Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons.
Oracle
I
of Ages was my first Zelda game, actually.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
Because that's
Yeah.
like that
Those-
classic
those were
format.
really good.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
really
they're
good.
super good. Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun little puzzles and fun little characters, and once again, like music that stuck with me when I was a kid. And this was like non-backlit Game Boys, maybe with some lights eventually. Like you were just like glued to the screen, or maybe those were Game Boy Color.
Oh,
They
I
had to
thought,
be
Game Boy Color.
Color.
Had to be Game Boy
Yeah.
Color because they were
Yeah.
like,
I thought that was a PC emulator game.
no, they were on. It is now.
Well.
It absolutely is now. You can play any game you like.
That's hilarious. Okay, so one thing we like to ask our guests is when you were a kid, what did success look like to you?
I don't know. I was the kind of kid who dressed up in her black cat onesie and ran around when it was like 90 degrees outside. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I was a really cool kid. I don't know. I was a really good kid. I liked getting good grades. I liked beating my Pokemon game.
Yep.
I don't think I ever thought of success as a kid. That's such a good question.
Like
Think-
it's kind of funny how it changes for some people. Like I remember when back when we were kids, it was like, being a rock star and getting out there and being on the radio. And now I feel like a lot of people are like, it's like being a YouTuber and kind of
No,
getting out there.
I think I used to like I had a pretty good childhood. I was a pretty happy kid. Like I think I didn't like come up with success and stuff till like high school or something like that. I think at that point success was like being a famous composer, like being like
Okay.
the
Yep.
next Koji Kondo, the next Nobuo Uematsu.
Yeah.
And part of me still holds on to that, 'cause,
Yeah,
like,
I've
who
got
doesn't
a
wanna
little
be
bit of that
that?
myself.
Yep.
yeah.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
say no. Like, we're gonna use your song. And
Oh, you
yes.
like my piece? Oh, okay. Well,
Mhm.
I'm
Yes.
busy today. Can I call you tomorrow?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Give me money and
yes.
put it in your game.
yeah.
So would you say now where you're at in your life, would you say you're successful?
That's golly, this is hitting close to home because this is actually something I'm working in therapy right now. In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. I feel like I'm successful in finding a niche and finding something that I really enjoy and that like I can brag and be proud about my work. I don't think a lot of people get to do that. And I think that's a huge success.
Yeah.
I always want more. Like I want to write for a big game. I want to do another piano collections book. Like I want to do a piano album. Like, and it's just, I think success will be the more things I can be proud of, you know?
Like meaning.
Projects and art that I can like look at. I can be like, yeah, I did a really good job on that. I'm proud of what I did. I think that's what that is, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And being able
That's
to afford
cool.
groceries is a nice
Yeah, it
nice
really
That
bonus.
helps.
Got to get that
Yeah.
breakfast yogurt.
Well, that's one of the cool
Yeah.
things about success, though, is like even as you're saying it, it's like it's ever evolving, which is
Yeah.
to me at least it is, and it's kind of one of the cool aspects of it is as you're explaining, it's like, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. It's like so success isn't just one thing. And
Yeah.
I think that's why sometimes actually we do become I know in my own life, it's like there's certain things that I had improper metrics. It was like one thing was success. And it's not even in my life, but I've seen people that,
Once
you
they
know,
got it and it wasn't
yeah.
what they thought it was going to be, or
Yeah.
they didn't
Right.
make them feel any better. They're like, well, I got the thing, and now
See,
go,
exactly, their
now what
metric-
do I do?
their whole life, it's like their metric was, I'm going to retire at this age. I'm going to have the sports car and I'm going to have this. And then they got it and we're like, well, I'm not happy. And it's like, you had the
Mhm.
wrong metric. Like maybe
I'm going to speed and not
Yeah.
use my
Yeah.
turn signals. That's
Well,
going to make my life
and I've
feel
even
better.
known in my life too, like even going through like therapy and stuff, and again in my life looking at like when I say I teach my girls, it's like what do you want to be when you grow up, and they'll say happy, but it's
Yeah.
not just that. It's like
Mhm.
it's also encompassing like meaning, having meaning
Yeah.
in your life, and having it. So like success, as you're explaining it there, for even hearing what you'd like to do, like all those things are so meaningful. So
Mhm.
it's so neat to just see how it's like it is your pathway, all of ours actually. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the cool things, even people that I really admire and look up to that I consider very successful. They're, when we get to share like a drink and actually hear them talk about their life, it's like it went like this. Not rarely have I ever heard of anybody. It's like, I was here with success, and then there it
Yeah.
is. Like you just
Yeah.
don't like that whole thing of like when I'm a kid, I want to be a rock star. Boom. It's like it doesn't usually look like that. But
Yeah.
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 And it's good to know like when you actually know what you want and you know what you
Mhm.
enjoy, like it gives you like that feeling of like
Yeah.
back when I was playing in bands with Josh, and we had like we knew what we wanted to do. Wanted to be a touring band, and I actually felt kind of bad for people who didn't know what they wanted. Right. I
Yeah.
was like, oh well, I know what I want, and
I'm doing it.
doing my thing. And then I got to the point where I kind of wasn't sure if I kind of fell in love, and I was like, I
Mhm.
don't know if I want to tour and leave all the time. And I didn't I wasn't really sure. And I still loved it, but then I was like, maybe I want to like work on my career and be a good husband, and kind of maybe it's time to focus on that. And I felt I wanted to play games and not feel guilty for not playing music and practicing. You know what I mean? I wanted to be able to do fun stuff like that because I could never do it before. I'd feel like this guilt, like, oh, I really should be fucking practicing right now. Like, I should be
Sure.
playing this. Like, one more, I could beat Final Fantasy 7 one more time. And and then when I finally did, and I worked on doing my career thing and got stability, but I lost that part of me that was excited. Like I kind of think of the future, and I lost a lot of that giddiness. And I didn't know what it was at first, and until I started getting back into piano, right when I was learning on Found Your Channel, and started learning orchestral music and doing like
Mhm.
MIDI compositions and getting into sample libraries and writing like that. And then I like kind of woke back up again, and I was like, oh yeah, this is what makes me special. I was like, this is what gets
Yeah.
me going and like literally floats my boat, as they say,
Mhm.
and
yeah, but that's a good thing though. Like when we're talking about earlier about like feeling all your feelings is like I
Mhm.
think we all go through those stages,
Yeah.
and some that little maybe dry spell happens to be a little bit longer than others. But I think
Yeah.
those things are actually, and sometimes they make us a more seasoned, mature artist, musician, whatever it may be, and whatever we do, because we like I know even there's been times where I haven't picked up my guitar in a bit, and I come back to it and I just like fall even more in love, right? Or like or whatever, or sit at the piano and haven't played it in forever, and I'll sit down with my daughter and just bash out songs, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like it just the floodgates like open up. And I think sometimes there is those moments in life where it is I mean, your soul does need to rest sometimes, and I think sometimes too it also needs a moment where you're like, actually this is what brings life.
Yeah.
And it's
Mhm.
like a reminder of like, no, this is a part of my life for a reason, because it is part of what charges your batteries.
100%.
I like how now it's like there's just brand new rules for everything. There is no rules. There's no genres. There's no reason
Right.
No,
everything can't, like you said, it's just a global mishmash of we're talking to you right now from a different side of the
Yeah.
mountains or on the same mountain range, but
you're in a
Yeah.
snow blizzard.
yeah.
Yeah.
We're in summer.
Yeah.
Let's trade.
Let's trade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sick
pretty
of winter.
it's really cool how like we can actually like we can do this, you
Oh
know?
gosh, yeah, yeah. The
And
internet.
thank you very
is
much for it,
insane.
too.
Yeah, this was really, really fun. You guys
You
are
had
just
fun?
delightful. Yeah, I had a blast. This was a lot of fun. You guys are ridiculous in a very good way.
Thank you.
So keep up
Never.
that energy. This is amazing.
Well, I'm so
Awesome.
glad you wanted to be part of the project with the Steinwave and you lent us your talent and your
Yeah.
great medley.
Yeah. Oh gosh, guinea
And that's
pig me
been
more. Absolutely.
oh, okay. Well, we're going to.
Big.
And
Yes.
Yeah.
it's
She
'cause-
instantly changes her
'cause-
contact info.
because basically
Blocked.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those
it's
are
Mad
the-
Game piano now forever.
those are some of the funnest nights in the studios, like having video game music playing from the Steinway.
Oh gosh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like it's super cool. Like the whole time, I'm just like whoa,
Yeah, just
like a little
That's what it was.
schoolboy.
But
yeah,
that's
make
what it
speeches
was
for that
created
minute of
for.
like,
Yeah.
oh, and you just get that level of satisfaction from it because it does like it brings back all that childhood, and that's what I found too is that like not having that inner child back in your day-to-day life as an
Mhm.
adult. Like, yeah, be wacky, be you, be the person. Like when you're teaching other people, I love that you're gonna
Yeah.
accept them for them being them that day. That's
Yeah.
like a good.
Yeah.
It's a good way to go at almost
Yeah.
anything you're doing. It's like,
Totally.
well, just because
Yeah.
someone's having a blank thing happening, like I'm trying not to let it affect me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a skill.
That's what's great about music. There's room for that. There's room for your feelings, which is
Yeah.
nice.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the cool things that well, first I'll just say thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's phenomenal. And also too is one of the things that we always say is it's just cool to have people that are brave enough to have a conversation that's a purposeful conversation that you're willing to open up and to just be you. So thank you for that, because
Yeah, you're welcome.
for us it's like exciting.
Yeah.
Like we absolutely love it.
Yeah.
When you were talking earlier, like one of the things, even just as you were just mentioning, Josh, like I had the pleasure of being able to go to like a video game release. I won't share which one it was, but I got to go down to LA with my wife and we got to go there and like to the, the big, it was phenomenal. I mean, they closed down this whole like part of a street and it was like just the coolest thing for us. It was an experience I will never, ever forget. And I'd only ever up until that point gone to music stuff or to sports stuff or whatever that means. So there was always very stereotypical things that happened at each one and I never really enjoyed them. But when I got to this, one of the coolest experiences ever was that I got in there and got a chance to meet everybody that was a part of creating this game. And this was a massive, massive game. And it was really neat for me to be able to be introduced to the people who did the voiceovers, the people that wrote the story, the people that did the like actual like environment artist all the way through. And like, just as I kept meeting them, I was like, my mind was being blown that like, wait a minute, you're like my mom's age.
Yeah.
And wait a minute, you're like, oh my goodness. And my mind just kept getting blown because it was all walks of life, all different people. And it was the coolest thing ever that what brought them together was their love for video games.
Mhm.
And that to me was like a monumental moment in my life. It wasn't, and this isn't long ago. This is literally like 7 years ago, but it was such a cool experience for like my wife and I still talk about it to this day that it was like, I'll never forget it. And that's one of the things that I think that we're talking about music doing that, about bringing people together, but it's so neat that there's video games and so many more things that there is no, hey, this is the person that plays video games at all. That night just completely blew my mind with, even the person that wrote the game. When I met them, I was like, okay.
Was it Final Fantasy VII?
No.
Oh, was it the remake?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. It was the rewrite of Final Fantasy VII.
Which we're all like very
Yeah.
excited about.
It was,
So
it
we
was,
now all
it
need
was so cool.
PS5s.
I just thought it was such a
gonna
neat thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I know it's an hour ahead for you, so we don't want to keep you too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for coming. It's been great
Thank you
to
for
get
having
to
me.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a blast.
And
Yay.
so the best place for people to check your stuff out, YouTube.
You can, yes, YouTube. All my tutorials have at least their first part on there. Some of them are free. Check them out. I'm also somewhat active on Instagram and Twitch. Every now and then I'll tweet something, but Twitter's a scary place, so I don't
Yeah.
usually go there too often.
And where can they get your book?
Oh, it's being sold by Materia Collective. So if you look up Materia Collective, the Dust piano selections,
Oh,
I
that's so
arranged
nerdy, I
the
love it.
tuned. I know, right?
Did you
If
tell her
wanna-
that? Oh, go ahead.
So sorry. So if you want that, it's all piano arrangements. It's meant for more intermediate players, so you can play it. You can do it. Go get. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be a fun time.
Awesome.
And there's a viola duet in it because violin
Ooh.
gets too much love. So
Sure
viola.
does.
Gets some love. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah, make sure you get out there and check it out. I've learned tons from her channel. I can't even say how thankful I am because it helped me not look like an idiot so many times at those cover shows. So thank
Well,
you.
it is called smart game piano.
Smart game.
is smart.
Not dumb game
Not
piano.
dumb game piano. So.
Although I would probably watch a little bit of Dumb Game Piano.
Yeah,
Same.
well, that dumb
Yeah.
game piano was me pretending my levels are off. I'm like, oh, something's
Yeah,
wrong.
something's wrong over here. Can't get into a
It's
technical
a sound.
problem.
It's a
I
sound.
would love for you to censor video though. That's something
That
I'm
would be
looking forward
great.
to. Yeah, you censor yourself.
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that.
Yep,
Yeah,
all
I'll
the
let you know
different-
what's coming, Tyler. So
Yeah,
that
for
you can
sure.
listen.
Hey, awesome. I
Get the
can't
heads up.
wait. All right, well, stay tuned for more. We got more plans coming with Sid here, so don't you worry. And thanks so much. We'll see you next time. May the force be with you.
And
What's
happy
up, man?
practicing.
Happy practicing.
Take care.
Yay.
We're gonna cut out all those little taglines at the end, right?
I'm gonna
Just
see how many
one
times I
after
can get May the
another.
force be with
Um,
you.
We need to cue the music.
Stay fit and have fun.
Oh no.
Stay alert. Stay safe.
And
Stay fit. Like what the?